recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Turn it on and rip the knob off.
Hey guys, Ray Russell here, interrupting this episode of The Grenade with a really quick note. As we head into episode 64 here, the original plan was to cover all of February 87 TV for the World Wrestling Federation, but as I got going with this episode, there was just so much to cover, far more than I even anticipated, and I wanted to do everything justice, and I came to the realization that there was just no way we were going to be able to do 4 weeks of TV here, February TV, in one episode of The Grenade. There's just so much to talk about. As the WWF firing on all cylinders right now, heading into WrestleMania 3. Every segment has so much behind it. And again, I wanted to do everything justice. So this week on The Grenade, we're going to talk the first 2 weeks of WWF TV here in February. Next week, episode 65 of The Grenade, we're going to finish up February, 2 more weeks of TV. And that's going to be just as hot as we finally learn the full 12-match card for WrestleMania 3. The Honky Tonk Man has a surprise for Jake the Snake Roberts on the set of the Snake Pit. Roddy Piper going to announce his retirement from the Squared Circle, and so much more next week on episode 65 of The Grenade. But for now, episode 64 here this week, we're going to talk Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant's confrontation on the Piper's Pit. And by now, I'm sure you all know that Andre will issue Hulk a challenge. This week, we'll also find out what Hulk's answer is to said challenge. Also, we'll see new WWF Tag Team Champions crowned. Danny Davis finally gets his comeuppance, but it'll be Jimmy Hart who gets the last laugh there. There's just so much to discuss leading into WrestleMania 3, and I didn't want to do a disservice to such an important time in professional wrestling history and try to cram 4 weeks of reviews into one episode of The Grenade, so we're going to split it, guys. Once again, we're going to do the first 2 weeks of February here this week, so disregard what I say at the beginning of the show. We're going to do the following 2 weeks of February next week here on The Grenade. Lots of fun stuff coming your way. Don't go anywhere, guys. Tons of news, tons of reviews, tons of laughs, and soundbites galore coming your way right now on The Grenade. We now take you back to your regularly scheduled programming. Hey guys, and welcome back to the Wrestling Memory Grenade. It is episode 64, and I'm your host, Ray Russell, as we get ready to talk all things February TV and the World Wrestling Federation for 1987. Last week, guys, I had a lot of fun. All the news and notes in February of 87. We talked all about house show results. Well, this week, it's all about the TV, and so much to dive into. February just loaded on the road to WrestleMania 3. We're going to see new WWF Tag Team Champions crowned. Referee Danny Davis finally gets his comeuppance, or does he? Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, as promised, will go nose to nose, or as close as they can anyway, on the set of Piper's Pit. Also, many debuts this month here in February. Outback Jack finally made it here to the States, as well as broadcaster Craig DeGeorge will be popping up before too long here on WWF TV. Also, last month in January, we saw the debut of a new tag team, Demolition, Axe and Smash. Of course, Axe portrayed by Bill Eadie, the masked superstar. Smash portrayed by Randy Colley, Moondog Rex. Well, Colley is out as Smash of Demolition. We'll see a brand new Smash, the one we all have come to know and love over the years. Barry Darsow on his way in here in February to the team of Demolition. We'll also see some build to the upcoming March edition of Saturday night's main event with the big Battle Royal. And Soundbites Galore from Prime Time Wrestling Superstars Wrestling Challenge Beyond. It's a loaded show from beginning to end, so stick with us, guys. It's going to be a fun ride again this week here on The Grenade. But before we get there, just a quick reminder, you can listen to the Wrestling Memory Grenade and our sister shows, including Monday Warfare, The Battles Within. It is Raw versus Nitro, the WWF versus WCW. You can listen to The Grenade, Monday Warfare, and Beyond as part of the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. You can find that over at www.wrestlecopia.com. That's WrestleCopia.com, WrestleCopia.com, and all of your favorite podcast streaming apps from Apple to Spotify, Google Pod, and beyond. And let us not forget, you guys can follow us social media. Lots of videos and pictures going up daily on our social media accounts. You always want to check back for the newest and latest wrestling history to be posted on our social media accounts. You can follow us on Twitter at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. And also follow and like us on Facebook. Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. Twitter and Facebook, home of the free prize giveaway. And our next free prize giveaway is coming up in just a few short weeks as part of our WrestleMania 3 Definitive Edition of the Wrestling Memory Grenade, where we break down, analyze, and dissect every aspect of the WrestleMania 3, the monster event from the Pontiac Silverdome. And those free prizes about to be given away as part of said show. The Steamer signed it himself, an 8x10 promo pic of Steamboat as IC champion. Also, a second free prize to give away now. Also, a Honky Tonk Man autograph promo pic. Honky Tonk Man, Intercontinental Champion, and his promo pic as well. So we are giving away 2 gifts as part of the WrestleMania 3 edition of the Grenade. It's a Steamboat autograph promo pic and a Honky Tonk Man autographed 8x10 as well. Both winners will be announced on said edition of the Grenade show in just a few weeks' time. I think we're about 3 weeks out, if I'm not mistaken. And all you have to do to win those prizes and each and every future free prize giveaway here as part of the Wrestling Memory Grenade is simply follow us on Twitter, once again, at Wrestling Grenade, and or follow and like us on Facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. It's that easy. And after some time away due to personal family situations, we are back 100%. So you can head back over to our YouTube channel as well, guys, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. New videos going up. Most recently, I talked about it last week, the Islanders and Rougeaus Battle of the Babyface Tag Teams match added to our YouTube account. You can see the Islanders and the Rougeaus hint at a heel turn there near the end. They both got a little rowdy with each other. Really fun stuff there between two babyface teams, just letting it all hang out. Also posted a great match from the Philadelphia Spectrum. We also discussed this last week between Hulk Hogan and Kamala. It was Kim Chi attacking the Hulkster at the end of the match and pile driving the champion. Why, that's not Kim Chi at all. No, it was unmasked to be Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, and I have to thank his son Travis for retweeting and discussing that with us as well. Really fun video. It made its rounds on our Twitter and Facebook accounts last week. And the entire match is up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Hulk Hogan versus Kamala. Fun little match in itself, but it's the aftermath which is most exciting. Philadelphia Spectrum, February 14th, 1987. It was Kim Chi attacking the Hulkster after he dropped a big leg, delivering a pile driver only to unmask and reveal it was Mr. Wonderful under the Kim Chi mask all along.
It was me, Hogan. It was me all along.
Oh, wait, wrong guy. Expect tons more going up very soon there on YouTube. And of course, it's always a great time to be a patron here, a WrestleCopia patron that is. You can stop on over to our Patreon account at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's patreon.com/WrestleCopia. A dozen tiers to choose from. A dozen, guys. Wow. But the $5 all access tier, my personal favorite tier, gives you 6 gifts for $5. Unbelievable. We're talking all of my insanely detailed show notes for both the Wrestling Memory Grenade and the Monday Warfare show. Early access to many of our podcasts. In fact, last week's episode of the Grenade, episode 63, went up 6 days early. Over on Monday Warfare, our last couple episodes, they went up 6 and even 10 days early for our patrons only. Another good reason to become a Patreon member. So yes, insanely detailed show notes, early access to many of the podcasts, unedited versions of many of the podcasts. Those are fun in and of themselves, including Tom Robinson's TR Shocks the World on that list. Also, enhanced version of the earliest episodes of The Grenade covering the NWA in 1989. What do I mean there? Not only enhanced audio quality, but some of the stuff that I originally edited out of the show, edited right back in for the first time ever. New conversations to be heard there. And of course, the Patreon exclusive Watch Along series. You can watch along or listen to us as we discuss many of WWF and WCW pay-per-views of the past. Saturday night's main events, Clash of the Champions. Hey, Flair and Steamboat, Clash 6, it's on there. Also, Coliseum home video, USA specials, and so much more. And now, 6 gifts, guys. A 6th gift now added. Digital downloads, monthly digital downloads for your viewing and reading pleasure. Really good stuff. All of that for the low, low price of only $5. No subscription, cancel anytime. Give it a go for a month and see what you think. I think you're going to love all the gifts we include. And every penny of it, guys, goes right back in to the WrestleCopia Podcast Network. Please help us keep up and running for the years to come. And all right, I guess with all of that out of the way, it is time to get going. And boy, do we have a long way to go. Lots of fun to be had this week, I promise you. It's everything February TV here in 1987 and the World Wrestling Federation. Let's get rolling. And we kick things off with the February 2nd edition of Prime Time Wrestling. All right, and this episode is loaded, guys, loaded with fun sound bites. I promise you that, as this is episode number 100 of Primetime Wrestling, hosted by Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Let's listen to the intro.
Very pleased to welcome everyone to the 100th edition of Primetime Wrestling, and a tremendous lineup indeed we have this week, even though we do have quite a few members of the Heenan family.
And it's only fitting, the 100th edition of Primetime, that I should be here as host, and we should have the King as a guest, Mr. Wonderful and Hercules.
I love it. You know, so we're going to take aside from those horrendous individuals, we're going to take a look at a couple of newcomers to the World Wrestling Federation, and Ron Bass and Brad Rheingans, a youngster who of Olympic fame.
Oh, I know a lot about Brad. He trained the Olympic team the year they were boycotted.
That they didn't go, right.
Yeah, that's the reason they boycotted the Olympics.
Please,
he trained them.
that is not the reason.
It wasn't because of Jimmy Carter.
Oh, please.
They saw the way Brad trained, and they said, wait a minute, cancel the reservations. We're staying home. We're going to Des Moines and hide out. That's what happened.
He's completely out of it here
it's
for
our 100th anniversary.
Broadcast.
100 show.
Our feature match, indeed, a classic. The incomparable Junkyard Dog, a man who doesn't have to take a back seat to anybody, against
the King.
The Thief. You said it right.
He is the thief.
Yeah, I know he's a thief.
He's a no good thief.
The King.
The King. No.
Yes,
the Junkyard Dog.
Stole the robe right out of the props department.
He did not. That was made for him. I had that made. He was coordinated. Junkyard Dog's the one that put the robe on and the crown.
And right away, we kick things off. Good stuff there by Bobby the Brain Heenan. The United States boycotted the 1980 Olympics, not because of Jimmy Carter, but because they saw what Brad Rheingans had done training the wrestling team for the Olympics. They were too embarrassed to go into the Olympics. Thus, we boycotted. I don't remember that part of world history, but if the brain says it, it's probably true. Up next on Prime Time, we're coming out of a match between George the Animal Steel versus Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, a match in which Bobby Heenan used posters of the lovely Miss Elizabeth to distract the animal, eventually leading to a disqualification. Let's take a listen to what Heenan and Gorilla have to say coming out of that match.
As usual, you created pandemonium and chaos with your annex. Well, how much did that cost you?
2 posters?
No,
Not a bad investment.
I'm sure you're going to be fined by the World Wrestling Federation for those kind of annex.
What did I do?
What did you do?
You go to any football game, go to Super Bowl, do anything you want.
Are you allowed to go onto the field in any football game?
I didn't go onto the field.
You went up into the ring? You went on the apron?
After he was disqualified.
No.
He hit the referee with a chair. I was concerned with Mr. Wonderful, him using the chair on him.
You were despicable as usual.
All I did was show a poster. You can go to any football game, and they'll hold up a poster.
I guarantee you didn't buy that either. Somebody obviously gave it to you. Macho Man, probably.
I spend my money quite wisely.
Yeah,
I don't waste it.
What is that garbage you're eating there?
This happens to be flown in from Beverly Hills. This is my,
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you.
You celebrating something? Or?
It's the 100th show.
With what? Weasel food?
Gorilla Monsoon asking Bobby Heenan, how much did that cost you? Referring to maybe being fined for interference there. Bobby quick to respond, how much did what cost me? 2 posters? I wrote LOL. Good stuff as always from Bobby the Brain. We go on now as Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon discuss the returning Blackjack Mulligan as we come out of a match with Blackjack's arch nemesis, another cowboy by the name of Outlaw Ron Bass.
I'll give credit where credit is due, and I'll give Ron Bass a good nod for that, because he impressed me. In fact, he did.
I bet you Mulligan was watching out there. See, Mulligan's a pretty tough man at the Rock Inn around 4 in the morning when some of the good old boys get out of their pickup trucks and they got their face stuffed with beer nuts and they've finished about 3 quarts of Jack Daniels. Then he comes up and blindsides them from behind, jumps in the pickup truck, and turns up Willie full blast and drives home. That's when Mulligan's at his toughest.
Mulligan
with
is a
Ron
tough guy 24 hours a day. I got news for you, Pally.
Mulligan's a sissy. Reminds me of Dale Evans.
All right, and the Outlaw now part of the World Wrestling Federation, and who better to be an opponent than Blackjack Mulligan? And then we get Bobby Heenan's thoughts on old Blackjack there. But we go on, and if you thought the Brain's comments about Blackjack were fun, we'll get a little of this one. Outback Jack has touched down here in the United States, and the Brain has tons to say about old Outhouse, Outback.
It's that time in the program when we try to bring you up to date on just some of the many things that are going down here in the World Wrestling Federation, and Outback is finally on his way. Do you realize that?
Outhouse Jack is leaving?
No, Outback.
Keeps
Do
leaving?
you have any idea what the repercussions will be when he finally gets here?
He's going to stuff me in his pants and jump up and down like a kangaroo?
I don't know. Right now we're going to take a look at Outback Jack as he gets ready to come to the WWF. He might have had a couple of koalas in that bag, or what do you think, Bobby?
You know, for a minute when he walked up to that sliding door there, see, the reason he didn't know how to operate it, he's used to the doors with the half moon on it. And he's not used to them sliding. I thought the guy was stupid at first. No, he's all there. He's fine.
Probably never saw a door like that before in his life. A door that opened automatically when you step on
that's
a pad
right.
it's close.
It's only been on the market a lot.
I've seen you trapped
years.
in a phone booth now and then along the way. And you've never left these United States.
I've been all over. I've been to Japan. I've never been to Australia for the simple reason I don't like it there.
You don't like it?
No, I like people with all their teeth.
Please, give me a...
You know what
I'll tell you...
Bobby Heenan asking Gorilla Monsoon, what's he going to do, stuff me in his pants and jump up and down, causing Monsoon to break character there. Gorilla forced to laugh at the comments made by Bobby the Brain Heenan, and I had to as well. But it's just another segment or two later that Gorilla Monsoon gets a little revenge here. We come out of a Can-Am Connection vignette about Rick Martel and Tom Zink. And Gorilla Monsoon, well, he gets in a one-liner here that has Bobby Heenan busting out laughing right there on the set of Prime Time Wrestling. Let's take a listen.
Talk about two exciting individuals. These guys are just unreal.
Are these guys wrestlers or they work for AAA?
What do you mean AAA?
I mean, they took you all over the country.
Well, they were just comparing their two countries.
Believe me, if Martel and Zink went to a restaurant and had a drive-in window, and if they went to a dance, it was probably a sock hop. And if you talk about nightlife in Toronto, yeah, it's real nice if you get there before noon.
What are you talking about? Toronto was
well, they go to Beverly Hills, showed the nice
the...
shopping, the nice area, the Rodeo Drive, the nice homes, the mansions where I hang out.
Where you hang out.
We're talking about guys
I've seen some of the places you hang out. You're one of the prime guests at the air host whenever you're in that vicinity of these United States.
I happen to have my own wing there.
I'm sure you do. Yeah, with
nothing's too good for me.
Hot and cold running rats, right?
Let me see. You know, when you talk about air hosts and you talk about my lifestyle and everything, it brings a chuckle to my heart to think that you would try to insult me out here. Nothing's too good for me.
Try to insult you. We'll be back, wrestling fans. Plenty more action on our 100th anniversary coming up.
All right, and Monsoon broke character earlier with the comments about Outback Jack stuffing Heenan in his pants and jumping up and down. And now, Gorilla gets a little revenge here. Bobby completely breaks character with the hot and cold running rats comment. Of course, an inside joke to the wrestling community. And this segment here between Bobby and Gorilla, it's on our YouTube account. You can go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/wrestlinggrenade and check it out. Lots of views, lots of comments there. Really fun stuff here as Gorilla Monsoon gets a little revenge on the Brain. And it's definitely worth the watch. I recommend everybody go out and check it out. But Primetime rolls on as Heenan and Gorilla begin to discuss the former team of Tiger Chung Lee and Mr. Fuji. Gorilla refers to Chung Lee as a former co-holder of the tag team titles. Well, Fuji did have several partners, but Gorilla would be incorrect here. Chung Lee never one of the teammates that Fuji actually held the tag team titles with. Now, they did split up once upon a time, but let's hear what Gorilla and Bobby have to say about that.
Tiger Chung Lee, former co-holder of the World Wrestling Federation tag team title with Mr. Fuji, a devious friend of yours, who he supposedly had lunch with in New York, discussing some
what happened to Tiger Chung Lee and Mr. Fuji? They don't get along?
They had a little falling out.
Guess they maybe couldn't see eye to eye, huh?
And as I pointed out, no Gorilla, Tiger Chung Lee never champions with Mr. Fuji, though they were partners, and there was a split. Bobby Heenan's quip, it was because they couldn't see eye to eye. I don't know if you can get away with that here in 2022, but luckily for the Grenade, we're stuck back here in 1987. You can pretty much say whatever you want. As Bobby Heenan has more comments about Brad Rheingans.
Talk about guys with tremendous credentials. You're talking about Brad Rheingans. Oh, Frenchie Martin, give me a break. I'm talking about a guy who, tremendous Olympian wrestler, represented the United States.
He coached the Olympic team the year they boycotted the Olympics.
Yeah, well.
It wasn't because of President Carter that caused them to boycott. They realized Brad had coached the team, and rather than send the team there, who they weren't equal to the Russians' ability, they said,
do we have something
let's
that
stay
says
home.
liar that we can, let's go to the match.
All right, and the brain doubling down on Rheingans and the reason the Olympics were boycotted in 1980. For those who don't know, Rheingans, a hell of an amateur wrestler. He would go on also to train many of Vern Gagne's AWA students before coming here to the WWF the end of 86, the beginning of 87. Rheingans doesn't last a whole lot of time here with the WWF. And of course, Bobby knew him from the AWA days, just giving him really getting Rheingans some play here by even mentioning him on the commentary. They could be talking about something completely different if they chose to. Bobby kind of doing Brad Rheingans a favor here by making fun of him. And speaking of which, there's more Rheingans talk, which leads into a conversation about Stu Hart.
Very impressive debut for
Nice amateur move off the top rope.
Well, what's wrong with that?
It wasn't an amateur move. You sat there, you and Okran slap each other in the back, praising the credentials of this punk.
Did you see the flying cradle? That was one of his most impressive moves. That should have put away Frenchie. In fact, right in the latest edition of World Wrestling Federation magazine, there's a reference in there to that particular hole. I believe that was Stu Hart's patented put-away job.
That's right. Stu Hart and his flying cradle.
Well,
been knowing all about that. Yeah, that was a
friend
great
of
move.
yours, Stu Hart, right?
Very good friend of mine.
Stu Hart now, I believe, at age 65, and I think he just
On one side.
recently had a match.
Well, who knows? Stu could probably go till he's 205.
Well,
pretty tough guy. But look who his son is, Brett the Hitman.
Well, hey,
Runs
probably
in the family.
one of the most improved wrestlers in the history of the World
He'll
Wrestling
probably be
Federation.
goose hunting with Brad Rheingans next week.
All right, Rheingans picks up a win there, apparently over Frenchie Martin. Bobby Heenan has to once again mock Rheingans, who's been touted as a great collegiate, great amateur wrestler. He says that was a nice flying move there off the top rope by Brad Rheingans. Gorilla then puts over the flying cradle that Rheingans used during the matchup. He said Stu Hart used to use that flying cradle. Stu has to be about age 65 here in 1987, says the Gorilla. And if you couple Stu's toughness along with the fact that he's the father of the Hitman Bret Hart, a heel at this point, Bobby Heenan also putting Stu Hart over, saying he could probably go until he's 205. I always liked when Gorilla and Bobby would bring up random wrestlers from years gone by. You didn't really get that on the other shows. But we get back into 1987, and you know it's coming, guys. We're going to hear this week after week, and I'm not complaining. Really good stuff here. It's conversation about Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant.
Just keep giving Hogan trophies. Let him in front of the camera. That's all Hogan wants. He's a show-off. He's a loudmouth.
We've heard your
He's a
opinion.
guy that keeps shooting
Let's go
off
to
his
the
mouth.
tape.
I don't like
Let's hear
a
what
guy
Jesse
that shoots
found
his
out.
mouth off over and over and over again. He's my kind of guy. He's constantly shooting off his mouth.
The whole thing is still a little bit ambiguous to me. But he did, Jesse did come up with one piece of vital information. That is that he now knows the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, what went down at the hearing. How do you like those apples? You don't, right?
Well, may I answer the question you asked me?
Be my guest. The floor is
You
yours.
keep asking me questions.
Floor is yours.
You keep asking me
Go
this
ahead.
and that.
Do
you
it.
Keep it. Wait a minute. Quit interrupting me. I'd like to explain. Now, you said Jesse knew what?
Go ahead, explain what
what'd you
happened
say
at the
Jesse
hearing.
said?
Jesse said that he knows exactly what went on at the hearing.
He couldn't. It's confidential
I believe the
information.
body.
Well,
And he says that he will, in fact, produce Andre the Giant. And Roddy Piper says that he will produce World's Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan for a face-to-face. You know, I really had a question in my mind as to whether Andre would obviously show up. So I asked him personally myself. Andre the Giant, a whole lot of speculation going on here in the World Wrestling Federation. I'd like to clear the air at this point in time. Will, in fact, you be here next week to meet one-on-one in a discussion with World's Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan?
I'll be there.
Well, how much more positive could you be than that? I'll be there.
Bright guy. I'll be there. Okay, he'll be there. So what? What are you getting on me about it for? Well, when I had that
Because you
hearing
started all of this, Frank.
I started
That's
it.
right. You started because you were the only one present, with the exception of the president, Jack Tunney, the World Wrestling Federation, when Andre was reinstated after all the time and money you spent to get the guy suspended in the first place. True or false?
Okay, I have reasons to do the things I do. It's not your business. It's not your business.
It is their
It's my
business.
business. I could care less what they think.
Hernandez coming up.
Hercules.
Were you going to be present when these two guys meet face to face?
It's none of my business. It's none of my business what they do.
You're certainly plenty involved.
I told you, I was just. I said if it had been anybody else, if it had been your career, 15 years undefeated, I would have spoke about that. I appreciate when someone achieves something.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the reinstatement, number one.
Well, that's nobody's business.
No, it is everyone.
No, it isn't.
Yeah,
No.
You're wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're usually wrong. He is. Let's go down to ringside and watch Hercules.
It's Hernandez. It's Hercules.
All right, and I thought that was a really excellent piece between Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon teasing the upcoming Hogan-Andre showdown on Piper's Pit and Bobby's potential involvement in said showdown. Gorilla Monsoon thinks there's something going on there. Then we get that quick soundbite of Gorilla Monsoon confirming with Andre the Giant, will you be on the set of Piper's Pit this week to confront Hulk Hogan? I'll be there, says Andre the Giant. But it goes on. They're not done yet. More discussion as Gorilla questions Bobby about the hearing to reinstate the Giant.
Hearings that were over with months ago and reinstatements, this and that. It's none of my business.
Well, what were you there then if it's none of your business?
Because when things happen, I was the one that had the man suspended. I went to the meeting, and I wanted to see what took place, and I wanted to talk personally with Jack Tunney, the president.
And you personally got the guy reinstated?
I'm not saying...
In my book, you did.
Well, then why don't you read your book?
With some devious reasoning behind it.
Are you saying Jack Tunney was bought off by me? He's beyond taking a bribe. You can... The man wouldn't do it. I just know that.
We'll be back.
Well, he might. I don't... Well, he could.
All right, and Monsoon insisting that Heenan was the one that got Andre reinstated, but why? Good question, Gorilla. We're going to find out very soon. Primetime goes on, though. We go back to Saturday night's main event. We see the match involving the King Harley Race versus the Junkyard Dog. We come out of that match with Bobby Heenan explaining himself.
3 against 1, and you still couldn't prevail.
May I ask you some questions?
You go ahead.
The crown and the cape belong to the king. What business did Junkyard Dog have of putting on the cape and the crown?
I'm going to show you who the true king is.
Yeah, well, you got to earn something like that, just like Hogan.
Would you get it if you win?
I haven't decided that yet. But I'll tell you this, you just don't walk up...
Did Harley win?
Excuse me?
Did Race win?
Excuse me?
Did the king win?
That wasn't important. We got a message across to the Junkyard Dog.
Got a message across.
The Junkyard Dog should be suspended for his action touching an official.
Junkyard Dog got a message across to Danny Davis, too, did he not?
Right, and I heard he was fined for that Junkyard Dog. And I heard
there's some talk of some litigation,
you just can't touch an official. You know, if I touch an official, what would happen to me? They would blindfold me and set me across the interstate.
All right, and so Race disqualified there, the dog picking up the win. Gorilla asks, well, did the king win the match? But Bobby replies, no, they did it to send a message. Of course, they also mentioned the referee at that time was Danny Davis, Dog putting his hands on the official Davis after the match. Then we get Bobby Heenan's take on the entire situation, always entertaining to hear the way Bobby sees things. And as I pointed out at the beginning of this episode, this was show number 100, episode number 100 of Primetime Wrestling. So what do? We go all the way back to episode number 1 for what Bobby calls when the ratings were down. This is pre-Heenan era. Primetime Wrestling. We're going to go back to episode number 1. We're going to hear from Jack Reynolds and Jesse the Body Ventura.
Well, before we wrap up this 100th classic of Primetime Wrestling, we're going to take everyone back to show number 1, in which the host was my dear friend Jack Reynolds and the co-host, your dear friend, Jesse the Body Ventura. And they did a tremendous job. Of course, you wouldn't know because you were not part of the program at that time. And
no, that's when ratings were down.
Are you insinuating that you've raised the ratings?
I've been quite a shot in the arm.
You've been a shot in the arm,
you stumble around and get everything messed up.
Well, we're gonna try to figure out just what you have, in fact, contributed to Primetime Wrestling. And I want to make all our fans aware as well that next week we're going to have a special edition of Primetime. You know when that's on?
I know exactly when it's on.
When is it on?
So next Monday night.
No, we're not on Monday night. If you tune in Monday night, you'll see the fabulous Westminster Dog Show.
Wait a minute. I've been preempted for some mutt show? You can't. Wait a minute. They're going to have a dog show?
Let's go to the original tape.
It's a big year for Tito Santana. It was a good year. It was a bad year. You know about Tito Santana, Jesse the Body Ventura.
Oh, I know well about Chico Santana, and I got to give Chico a little bit of credit. Believe it or not, Jack, he's the former Intercontinental Champion now. That's a big, big jump
from when he used to sell tacos down in Tijuana. And I remember him down there when he was a taco
Standing by
salesman.
right now is Gorilla Monsoon with Tito Santana.
Fun throwback there. Going back, of course, Jesse Ventura is still with the company. A little shocked that they play footage of Jack Reynolds here because he's no longer with the WWF, and that was usually against the rules, but Reynolds wasn't hurting anybody. Longtime Cleveland announcer and an all-around nice guy. Jack Reynolds, Jesse Ventura. Fun to hear that soundbite. And we also learned that next week, Primetime Wrestling, gone to the dogs. Yes, the Westminster Dogs show going on even back in 1987 on the USA Network. So Primetime will be preempted. But instead of being replaced, Primetime Wrestling gets moved to later in the week to a special air date. And what date is that, Gorilla?
If we're not on next Monday night.
No, the dog show's on next.
Dog show. When are we on?
We're on Friday, the 13th.
Wait a minute. I can't be on the Friday the 13th.
Why not?
I don't like that date.
Every day's a bad day for you. So long, everybody.
I never walk under a black cat or anything.
So we learn next week Primetime Wrestling will air on Friday. But not just any Friday. February Friday the 13th. Yikes. We'll have to see how that episode plays out. But we've got a long week of wrestling to go before we get there. And before we head into a weekend of goodness, it's promo time. Ken Resnick standing by with the natural Butch Reed and his manager, Slick.
Well, thank you very much, Gorilla Monsoon, and of course, Bobby the Brain Heenan. In fact, we are about to be joined by a cohort, if you will, of Bobby the Brain Heenan, yet another manager here in the World Wrestling Federation. He calls himself the Doctor of Style, Slick, and he is presently guiding a man who calls himself the Natural for whatever reason, Butch Reed.
Natural. Don't you never forget that, Ken Resnick. Talk to him, Slick.
Well, Slick, you always seem to be surrounded and embroiled in controversy, and the Natural Butch Reed is certainly bringing you more of that, to say the least.
You used a very distinctive word a few moments ago. You made mention of the word guiding. And that's good because in addition to being the most colorful man in professional wrestling today, you might also call me the navigator because I am guiding this man up that ladder of success to the top, baby. He's rising, baby. He's going to be the cream of the crop. Now then. You know, there are people around the World Wrestling Federation who are so jealous of this man and myself because of the enormous amount of success that we have enjoyed. But you know, when you're hot, brother. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? And this man has got it all. And he's got the competition shaking like leaves on a tree. They're more afraid of the Natural Butch Reed than a dog is a flea, daddy.
You know what else? They're even going to be more terrified because Butch Reed is an undefeated force in the WWF. And the WWF has not seen me unleash all of my artillery, all of my secret weapons, because step by step, inch by inch, baby, they're going down each week. And when all the chips fall and everything is cleared out of the way, there's one thing still in the way, the top man. Hulk, get ready, because you are my main objective.
All right, and the Slickster, not only the Doctor of Style, but also apparently the Navigator. Taking Reed straight to the top, I like it. Fun promo there by the Doctor of Style as we move on to the following weekend. It's the Superstars of Wrestling for February 7th, 1987. All right, and it is Superstars for February 7th, taped back January 26th, so we're relatively fresh here. This episode taped in Tampa, Florida at the Sun Dome. It's Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, and Bruno Sammartino on commentary as we head to the ring. IC champion, the Macho Man Randy Savage, along with the lovely Elizabeth, taking on David Gold. Savage usually gets a few cheers, but it's audibly noticeable here this week to the point where Jesse Ventura even has to acknowledge it on commentary. The Macho Man's super over here in Tampa, Florida, and why not? Just a stone's throw away from Sarasota. We get an insert promo during the match from Miss Elizabeth, who talks about Randy's behavior since Ricky Steamboat's return. She makes Randy out to sound more ornery than usual, though the classy Elizabeth hopes that should the two meet again, that neither man gets hurt. Aw. Elizabeth always the beauty. We get an odd spot to begin the match. Randy Savage can't seem to body slam the slender Gold, who falls on top of Randy after presumably shifting his weight. Gold then launches Savage with his own body slam across the ring. Very impressive here early on by Gold, but Macho Man with a quick comeback sends Gold to the floor. Double axe handle off the top rope to the outside, then back inside. The flying elbow gets the win. Randy Savage with a 1-foot cover on the chest of Gold will be victorious here in just 1 minute and 38 seconds. Really odd start there. Savage picks up Gold to slam him, just an average-sized guy, and Savage takes a bump backwards onto his back. Just a surprise shock, I suppose. Randy Savage trying to keep the crowd guessing. As we move on to Update with Mean Gene Okerlund, he talks WrestleMania 3. We learn it will be March 29th, and it will take place at the Pontiac Silverdome just outside of Detroit, Michigan. Gene Okerlund also hoping to set an indoor attendance record that night on March 29th for WrestleMania 3.
WrestleMania 3. Bigger, better, better.
Back to the ring, and here we go. We just saw the IC champion in action. Now it's time for the big one. WWF Tag Team Champions, the British Bulldogs, taking on the Hart Foundation. Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart, along with Jimmy Hart in their corner. And wouldn't you know, the segment abruptly begins with Davey Boy Smith already entering the ring. No sign of Dynamite. They use Matilda, the Bulldog, to rush and attack the Hart Foundation in the ring, chasing them out to the floor. Meanwhile, the referee, Danny Davis, gets in between the two sides, while on the other side of the ring, Jimmy Hart from behind, blasting the Dynamite Kid in the back of the head with a megaphone, and down goes Dynamite on the arena floor. The Kid never manages to make it into the ring. But back inside, Davey takes it to both members of the Hart Foundation, while Danny Davis conveniently remains outside checking on the Dynamite Kid, allowing both Harts to remain in the ring to double-team the Bulldog. But it's not working out too hot for the Harts early on. Fun shit here by Davey Boy Smith. Good bumping by both Hart Foundation members, and the hot crowd reactions doesn't hurt a thing. As Smith continues on the offense, he keeps dumping one of the Hart members from the ring, but they keep returning for the 2-on-1, and Danny Davis just lets it all fly. Meanwhile, on the outsides, the camera shows Dynamite Kid out on the floor. He hasn't moved a muscle. Dynamite Kid, completely out cold, it would appear. Back inside, Davey Boy Smith with his patented running power slam on Jim the Anvil Neidhart, but Danny Davis conveniently randomly leaves the ring out of nowhere, once again to check on the downed Dynamite Kid to prevent from having to make the count. Davey Boy makes his own count, 1, 2, 3, before getting up to confront referee Davis, grabbing him by his hair, but the Hart Foundation double-team Davey Boy from behind to finally take over on the offense. It's the Hitman and the Anvil double-teaming Smith, while Davis turns his back yet again to talk with Dynamite Kid, who's clearly out like a light. Davis turning his back to allow the Hart Foundation to double-team Smith as the Harts level Davey Boy with the double DDT and then the Heart Attack. Before making the cover, Danny Davis with a semi-fast count, just to make sure. And the Hart Foundation are the new WWF Tag Team Champions in just 3 minutes. Holy fuck, a tag team title change, and the crowd is pissed off. The Hart Foundation quickly bolt from ringside with the tag team titles and Danny Davis trailing right behind them. Very interesting. So let's talk about what we know going into this match. We know the Dynamite Kid was unable to get physical here. They reportedly joined the entrance in progress with Smith entering the ring because Dynamite had to walk to the ring behind Smith with his hands on his shoulders for physical support. And even with the safe shot by Jimmy Hart and the megaphone, Kid likely had no business out there falling to the floor, no matter how controlled it was. And I'll say this for the match. For 3 minutes of action, this was hot and fast, and the crowd ate it up. Made you want a 20-minute classic between the two teams, but it just wasn't possible right now at this point. But just think about it, guys. Imagine how different this match, hell, everything would have been had they went with Vince's first pick, taking the belts off the British Bulldogs. Vince wanted the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov to take the belts here. Lucky for us, Dynamite refused to drop the belts to anyone except for the Hart Foundation. All of that, plus they work in the Danny Davis storyline, essentially making this match 3 or even 4-on-1, really, if you think about it. The Harts, Jimmy Hart, Danny Davis, everybody ganging up after taking Dynamite Kid out, everybody ganging up on poor Davey Boy Smith to steal those tag team belts. Let's take a look real quick at what Dave Meltzer had to say about this title change. DeMelt says Dynamite had been out of traction for at least a week before returning to the upcoming title switch, and according to his doctor, had been taking brief walks. He still had no business wrestling, which he really didn't anyway. DeMelt goes on to say that Hart and Neidhart are just interim champions. Oh, really, Dave? Because Titan is going to put their eggs in the Rick Martel and Tom Zink basket toward the end of March, maybe sooner. It's pretty fast. I don't know that happens. And we'll be back with more action in a moment involving the mighty Hercules, but first a promo from Dino Bravo.
Johnny Valiant, Dino Bravo, gentlemen, come on in. Johnny Valiant, I knew this young gentleman from Montreal a number of years ago when he first started his career, and now all of a sudden he secures you as his manager, and you have turned him into an absolute animal, and for what, I don't know.
Well, let me just first of all say, Gene, it's pretty keen observation there that you've taken upon yourself to relate to our viewing audience out here. How else can I add anything beyond of what you've already said? You see, Dino Bravo is a terrific, gifted young athlete. He happens to reside up in Montreal, Canada. And as I've stated before in some of these telecasts and some of these interviews you're not listening to, it's always going to be my pleasure to bring a lot of talent to you people. And I don't think of anybody around this WWF that has more talent than this young man right here.
You know, Dino Bravo used to be a very nice young man. You've changed. I don't know if you realize it or not.
Yeah, I've changed, but maybe I've changed towards you, but one thing that I keep in mind is that my pride is something very important, and there's very few people you can trust, especially in the World Federation. But my manager is the man that I trust, and that's all.
You never needed a manager before.
Shut up. He's telling you something.
That's why he turned the lights on for me. I'm going places now, and nobody's going to stop me with this man behind me.
And I'll never lie to you, Dino.
I talk with him, I know he's telling me the truth, and my job is to go out there and win matches, and how I win them, I don't care, because my opponents, you're in for a fight every time you have to face me, because my intention is to go all the way to the top with my...
You're going to that top, baby. We're going to that top. Dino Bravo.
Turn him into a madman. You really have, Johnny V. Thank you very much, Dino Bravo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. More exciting action right around the corner. Wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him.
Boy, has the Canadian strongman we used to know here in the WWF changed his position on life since returning with Johnny Valiant in his corner. Johnny V, now his manager. Dino Bravo expects big things here now that he's a heel. We head back to the ring. It's Hercules with Bobby Heenan in his corner taking on Buddy Blake as we get an insert promo from Billy Jack Haynes. Haynes says he's been master of the full Nelson for 5 years. And if Hercules wants to issue a challenge for the best full Nelson, Billy Jack accepts. He will snap and crack Hercules' neck. Ouch. In the ring, Hercules grabbing Blake in a front face lock to the point where Blake actually droops down, selling it as if he's knocked out from a front face lock by the powerful Hercules. The full Nelson gets the win in just 3 minutes and 4 seconds. Match itself seemed a little longer than normal for a Hercules squash, but he held his own here. But I got to be honest with you, I would have popped for a front face lock knockout instead of the full Nelson. But we're going into WrestleMania 3, so full Nelson it is. Severely underrated as a worker is Hernandez, or Hercules. More than just muscles. I was a huge fan of Herc. Action continues, and it is the debuting Outback Jack getting ready to come out. First, we see Steve Lombardi standing in the ring, and then it's Hillbilly Jim. What's he doing out here? Well, Hillbilly, remember what they did with the Honky Tonk Man when he first debuted. That really worked out well. They had baby faces cutting promos, putting over the Honky Tonk Man. They had baby faces introducing the Honky Tonk Man to the fans. Well, here, it's Hillbilly Jim out to introduce his good buddy, Outback Jack, scheduled to take on Steve Lombardi. Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. Outback Jack makes his WWF in-ring debut. And if you haven't been watching the vignettes and you've just seen Outback for the first time as he makes his way down the aisle, immediately you realize he's missing multiple teeth. Crocodile Dundee he is not. As the match gets going, very basic offense here by Outback. Not going to expose himself. And remember, we talked about Jack being trained up in Stampede Wrestling by Les Thornton. Well, this type of offense has Les Thornton all over it, with the basic fundamentals, the around the world into a hammerlock, hip tosses, things of that nature. It's the basic KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Can we say that anymore in this era? But at the end of the day, keeping it simple, it works here for Outback Jack. Why, he even seems to look comfortable moving around the ring. But spending a week in Stu Hart's dungeon, I'd imagine you'd be comfortable anywhere. Now, on commentary, Jesse Ventura spins the match burying Outback Jack's looks, his missing teeth, talking about how ugly he is, etc. I don't know how that helped him any. Lombardi attempts a comeback by going to the eyes of Jack, but he can't seem to body slam the big man. Lombardi, though, with a back elbow that drops Jack to the mat. But when Lombardi tries a big boot, Outback catches it, turns it around into an atomic drop, sending Steve Lombardi into the corner post. Then it's time for the old boomerang, supposedly a running clothesline from behind by Outback Jack, but looked more like a running bulldog to me. Either way, Outback Jack scores the win, 2 minutes and 49 seconds. And now if you thought I was just going to walk past this match by running down a few of the moves and not actually discuss Outback Jack, oh, you're sorely mistaken. I'm going to be fair here with my assessment of Outback Jack, and essentially I'm going to break the internet with this assessment. So get ready, guys. I'm going to break the internet and break the podcast world. Now, the match itself, Lombardi and Outback Jack, it wasn't very good, but it really wasn't all that bad either. Now, hear me out. So the pluses here, they kept Jack's offense simple, and thus he didn't screw anything up. And other than a single bump that Jack seemed confused about taking himself, he looked comfortable moving around the ring. His positioning, backing up, even selling of the eyes was realistic for a rookie guy. Now, Jack's supposedly 6'6", over 300 pounds, so he's believable in the land of giants. When Lombardi tried to tackle him and it didn't work, you at least bought into it. Now we're going to talk about the minuses. Right out of the gate, he physically looks like shit. Missing front teeth, balding in his 20s. He's burly but not defined by Titan's standards, or I guess anyone's standards. His in-ring gear is shit. The tight-fitting yellowish-colored pants and boots, which it may have been a look in Australia, but not great on the eyes for marketing. So coming in, we get countless vignettes of Outback Jack drinking in the pubs, making his way through the rough and rugged brush, the scrub as he called it, with crocodiles near the water with the Aborigines. And this is what we get when he debuts in the ring. That alone makes this fall flat for me. All of that build-up, and this is what we get. His moveset was the very basics, basic holds, hammerlock, headlock, basic moves, hip toss, body slam. These are things you can learn within a matter of days, depending on the hours you put in. And between Les Thornton and Stu Hart, I'd say Outback learned these moves pretty fast. Now, he obviously wasn't ready for this level of wrestling. He'd certainly struggle at this point to have a real competitive match and needs that time to develop. But I can't blame a guy for accepting a well-paying job that gives you international exposure and fame. That said, my final assessment in Jack's WWF ring debut is he is definitely not the next Hulk Hogan. He's not the next Crocodile Dundee either. He's not even the next Hillbilly Jim at this point. But for what the match was, it was just a very basic, normal squash match. I can't bury the guy completely just yet. Oh, and it's coming up next, guys. It's time for Piper's Pit. Jesse Ventura promised Andre the Giant. Roddy Piper promised Hulk Hogan. We're going to see these two on the set of Piper's Pit. But first, a promo from Mr. Fuji, Bob Orton, and the Magnificent Morocco.
All right, fans, so many things happening right now, the World Wrestling Federation. I want to bring in three gentlemen, veterans they are. Mr. Fuji, come on in if you would, please. The distinguished manager from Osaka, Japan. You look resplendent again this week in that nifty tuxedo.
You look nice yourself, yourself. Very nice.
I got the tuxedo mode. I'm into something else. Along with these two gentlemen from Kansas City, Missouri, or is it Kansas? Ace Cowboy Bob Orton, along with the Magnificent Morocco. Gentlemen, this tag team situation here in the World Wrestling Federation appears to be quite volatile. Bob Orton?
Oh, it's tough. There's some tough teams, some very good teams, some strong wrestling teams, some fighting teams, but there's not a team like Don Morocco and myself, not a team that can do anything that needs to be done in any given situation. And I'll tell whoever the World Tag Team Champions are, it doesn't matter to us, that we're coming hunting for the World Tag Team straps. That's going to make our days. That's going to make us happy. That's going to make 1987 for Don Morocco, Mr. Fuji, and myself. And I got to say this, man. I'm proud to be associated with you two gentlemen.
Don Morocco, good seeing you again. It's been a long time.
I'm sure it's all your pleasure. You know, we don't have to go around painting our faces. We don't have to pretend we're a couple of little dogs. We don't have to pretend that we're anything else but the two finest wrestlers in the world. We got together for a purpose. Purpose being, we're not a foundation wearing hearts on our pants. We don't crawl along on all fours, licking people's feet. No, purpose being, this is Ace Cowboy Bob Orton. And Magnificent Morocco, and this is the sinister Mr. Fuji. Purpose being, we are to establish ourselves as the finest tag team throughout the world today. And why? Because through years of fragility and hostility, aggressiveness, and even deceit, we have reached the top of our profession. So you may be a connection from Canadian America. You may be an islander that runs around barefooted. You may be a dog. You may be anything you want to be. Paint your tongue, spray your hair green, come out and shave your head. It doesn't matter. Because the bottom line is talent. Oh, and aren't you getting an eyeful right here?
Mr. Fuji, I wonder if I could prevail upon you to pick a number from 1 to 100.
69.
That is not the number. The number is 29. I'm talking about March 29th and WrestleMania at the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan.
Super spectacular.
I know you're going to be there.
The Magnificent one. I'll look in again.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Any connection?
Thank you very much.
69.
Oh, 69, boy-san. Very funny promo. Great stuff there. I love how they sneak these things in. We got that a lot up and through 86. Not so much here in 87, but I do love when we get these snuck in here. Mr. Fuji and company talking about the number 69, if you know what he means. And here it is, guys. As promised, it's time for Piper's Pit. On the set, Jesse the Body Ventura, and of course, host Rowdy Roddy Piper. Piper begins to speak, but Jesse Ventura snatches the microphone away, cutting to the chase. Andre is here, but what about Hulk Hogan? Roddy promised he'd deliver the Hulkster. Immediately, Roddy Piper takes the microphone back and introduces the WWF Champion Hulk Hogan to the fans here on Piper's Pit. The WWF Champion is here as promised. And I knew it then, and you could feel it now. Something is about to go down. I'm having 1987 goosebumps all over again. And before we go on with this segment, just a sidebar for a moment here. So awesome seeing Jesse Ventura, Roddy Piper, and Hulk Hogan in the same place at the same time. This just feels so huge. All right, back to the pit. So Hulk Hogan now on the set. Roddy Piper delivered, but now it's the Body's turn to deliver. And of course, Jesse begins to build Andre's credentials up and begins to introduce the Giant, but walking in front of Andre, who is that? Bobby the Brain Heenan? What the fuck? Even Jesse sounds surprised. Whoa. What is going on here? Bobby the Brain Heenan walking onto the set of Piper's Pit with Andre the Giant by his side. My childhood mind can't conceive what it's seeing. What is happening? Andre is the goodest of the good. He's not a typical wrestler. He's above being a babyface or a heel. He's the fairy tale giant. Why is Bobby Heenan with him? Hulk Hogan immediately points at the situation in disbelief, brother. Piper also stunned by the sight of Bobby Heenan leading in Andre the Giant.
What's going on, brother? You guys aren't together. You can't be with him, dude.
That's right. The Hulkster says that Andre can't be with Bobby the Brain Heenan. Doesn't Andre know what the Brain and the Heenan family has done to the Hulkster? To the fans? What the Heenan family has done to the fans? What'd they do? Refuse autographs? I digress. The entire time Hulk Hogan is questioning the Giant, Andre is emotionless, stoic, staring a hole through the Hulkster. Hulk says that Andre is the reason that Hogan got into wrestling. Andre was like a god to him. I wouldn't go that far, but a role model. Those are pretty far off from each other, Hulk, a god and a role model. Andre's the man who took Hulk Hogan to the top, to the title, to be straight and good with the fans. Hogan in disbelief, obviously, at this point, but he doesn't get an answer immediately from Andre. Instead, Bobby Heenan responds. The Brain says Andre is sick and tired of Hulk Hogan and what he stands for. Hulk used Andre for the last 3 years. Hogan got a trophy. Andre got a smaller trophy. And even then, Hulk Hogan couldn't help but walk out and steal the Giant's moment. Bobby making some sense here. Another heel turn that gets sympathy from me anyway. On the heel, first I felt for Paul Orndorff last year in 86 with Hogan. Now I'm kind of feeling for Andre here. Bobby makes a good point here. Getting back to the promo, though, Heenan says, Andre, 15 years undefeated. Hulk Hogan never once gave the Giant a title match. Hulk Hogan responds. He pleads with Andre. Even though you came out here with Bobby Heenan, you don't have to leave with him, brother. Placing his hands on the arms of the Giant as Andre finally makes a movement. Looking down at Hulk, putting his hands on him. Andre the Giant doesn't look pleased. Andre tells the champion, take your hands off my shoulders. Hulk lets go and looks down. But Andre isn't done yet. He has one more thing to say. Andre places his finger under the chin of Hulk Hogan to raise his head up. Very cool visual, very cool moment there. Andre lifting the head of the Hulkster, he says, look at me when I'm talking to you. Oh shit, you know something's about to go down now.
Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm here for one reason. To challenge you for a world championship match in the WrestleMania.
Andre says he's here for one reason and one reason only. To challenge you for a world championship match in the WrestleMania. You got that right. Hogan in disbelief and probably fear. He can't believe it.
Andre, no man, we're friends.
Bobby Heenan says, you can't believe it? Maybe you'll believe this. The Giant then grabs Hogan by his shirt and rips the Hulkamania shirt and the gold necklace with crucifix right off of his neck, accidentally cutting Hogan on the chest with his giant fingernails in the process. Andre immediately walks off the set with Bobby Heenan as Hogan kneels down to collect his chain in complete disbelief. Unbelievable. What a segment. The Hulkster then talks out loud to himself,
this isn't happening, brother.
Roddy Piper tries to salvage the little trickle of blood dripping down Hulk's chest by informing Hogan that, you're bleeding. Hulk, not as good of an ad-libber as Roddy, ignores Piper and continues to spiel about Andre and nearly coming to tears as his best friend just turned on him. As Vince puts it, Hogan is emotionally distraught. My response to this segment was, after reliving this for the first time in a long time, holy fuck, this was awesome. The entire storyline up until now has been so well done. Dave Meltzer called it scary. It was so well done. But this segment here, absolutely amazing. Great stuff here by everyone involved. And where else do you see so many legends? You throw around the term legends and Hall of Famers. Look at who was standing on this set when this segment was going down. Roddy Piper, Jesse Ventura, the odd men out. But then you had Bobby the Brain Heenan, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, everybody making this happen. It just felt like the biggest deal in professional wrestling history up until this point. Andre the Giant turning heel, aligning himself with Bobby the Brain Heenan. We kind of saw that coming, challenging Hulk Hogan to a title match at WrestleMania 3. Talk about a main event. But wait a minute, we didn't hear the Hulkster's response to that challenge. I guess we'll have to wait until next week for that. But what a hell of a segment. What a great time. It definitely lived up to the hype. It did not disappoint. Really good stuff there. And after that, I kind of need a minute break. So what better time than to go to a promo? It's Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with Kamala, Kimchi, Sika, and the Wizard. Wow, what a group.
Come on in if you would. Sika. Oh my, you've got to be kidding me. Kamala, the Ugandan headhunter, managed by the Wizard. What in the world? Gentlemen, this does not look right at all. Kimchi here also.
You're comfortable with us, Mean Gene, and I want to be the first to congratulate the Hart Foundation on being the new World Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. But Mean Gene,
yes.
Look at the face of Kamala and Sika. On paper and visually, this is the team to be reckoned with.
I don't trust this man at all, Wizard.
This is the team, Mean Gene. These are both men that are complete outcasts amongst their own people. They are throwbacks to the Neanderthal age. They bring violence to a new definite core.
Let me ask you a question, Wizard. Are these gentlemen actually communicating with each other when they talk like this? Can't be.
They communicate on the highest form, which is the 39th level. And the more comfortable you get with us, you will be on the 41st level.
What are they doing? Come on. I can't make heads or tails of it. Thank you, gentlemen. Come on, Sika and the Wizard. Thank you, Kim Chi.
Holy shit, what a mess of a promo that was. Notice no Ken Resnick anymore. Mean Gene has taken over here in syndication on the promos as of February 1987. And we're back to the ring with the Killer Bees, taking on the team of Al Navarro and Jimmy Jack Funk. No masks this week by the Bees, and the match itself pretty basic. Blair with an enziguri early on and a catapult into Brunzell, who delivers a ear clap. Lame. You know, Bees, if you guys are going to do double team moves, maybe something a little better than a catapult to an ear clap by Brunzell. Blair shoots Navarro off the ropes, drop down into the Brunzell drop kick, and the Bees pick up the win after 5 minutes and 29 seconds as Brunzell celebrates like they just won the tag team titles. You know, as a kid back in the mid-'80s, I absolutely loved the Killer Bees. I will admit that. And sometimes when my cousins would come over, I would pretend to be the Bees in the yard when we were having a little wrestling contest. And to this day, I still love me some Jumpin' Jim Brunzell in his element. Talking the AWA, and really here in the WWF as well. I've always been a fan of Jim Brunzell. But the Bees, they absolutely do not need 6-minute squashes. I don't know anybody that needs a 6-minute squash, specifically the Bees here, though. Together, as a team, their flaw, I always felt, was there was no flashy partner. You always had the flashy partner. Nothing sticks out. And as I pointed out a little bit ago, the double teams from the Bees in general, pretty weak. So once again, another extended squash involving the Killer Bees for whatever reason. They do, however, use this match as a backdrop to sell the Piper's Pit segment we just witnessed between Andre and Hogan. So makes a little sense. You guys go out there and give us 6 minutes of TV time, entertain the people in the arena, entertain the fans at home. But really, this segment's just to buy more time for the commentators to talk about what the crazy nonsense that just went down between Hulk Hogan and Andre on the set of Piper's Pit. On commentary, Jesse Ventura even continues his disbelief of Andre's heel turn, and Bobby Heenan showing up as his manager. The announcers as a group go on to discuss the fallout, the challenge Andre laid down to Hogan, and if Hulk Hogan would even accept that challenge. Of course, the Body thinks the Hulkster is a coward. Bruno thinks Hogan was simply caught off guard. We'll have to wait and see what the Hulkster has to say about all of this. And after the Bees pick up their win this week, Vince McMahon nonchalantly throws it backstage to Craig DeGeorge? Who the fuck is Craig DeGeorge? Apparently, our latest announcer, Craig DeGeorge, is making his Superstars debut here without any fanfare. And typical Vince McMahon no-selling shit like this guy's been here all along. And it's chaos backstage as Craig DeGeorge tries to stop people to ask them about the fallout from the Piper's Pit. We see Bobby Heenan walking by laughing, but he won't stop to speak with DeGeorge. Craig does manage to stop Mean Gene, though, for a word.
Try and get an update for you, as we have been trying to do all along. Bobby Heenan, Mean Gene Okerlund.
Yeah,
Mean,
right.
Could you please tell us the situation?
I'll be right there.
Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, what is the state of mind now for the champion?
Hulk Hogan, heavyweight champ, is psychologically totally deflated. It's like he has had a dagger stuck in his heart. I don't know what to make of it. We're going to try sort it out, and I'll get the information to fans as soon as possible.
All right, Gene, have you ever seen? We'll try and get more on the situation. Back to you, Vince.
Okerlund doing his best oversell job. Hulk is psychologically deflated. What a line. He's had a dagger stuck in his back. Mean Gene hopes to get more a little later. And while we wait for that, it's back to the ring for the natural Butch Reed, the Doctor of Style Slick in his corner, taking on Dave Studemeyer as we get an insert promo from Coco Beware. The Birdman questions Reed's natural hair color and says if Reed ever meets the Birdman, he better be in his best shape, and implies that Frankie just might shit on him. All right. Vince, of course, laughs hysterically at that one and wishes Frankie would perch on Jesse Ventura. In the ring, though, it is Reed versus Studemeyer. Nice lariat from the natural and a big press slam as Reed hoists Studemeyer up over his head, drops him down, nasty drop right down onto his face, and then the big elbow drop. Butch Reed with the one-footed cover gets the win in just 1 minute and 50 seconds. Post-match, Slickster on the microphone calling out Tito Santana after their recent issues. Remember, Santana back in January put his hands on the Doctor of Style. Slick says that he and Reed will get their revenge on Tito, referring to Santana as a chump. I did notice on commentary here during this matchup, Vince McMahon really putting over Butch Reed strong here, and it looks like they're giving him a stepping stone in the form of Tito or Coco or maybe both to the next level. We'll have to see how that pays off. It looks like Butch Reed going to a feud with Tito Santana, but we get that random insert promo from Koko B. Ware, which has me scratching my head. For now, anyway. We learn next week, finally, we'll learn some of the matches slated for WrestleMania 3. Plus, yes, WWF Champion Hulk Hogan answers the challenge of Andre the Giant next week. Plus, information on Roddy Piper's potential retirement? What? You leave us with that? No explanation? I gotta wait a week for the payoff? The fuck? So I'm already hyped as the show's going off the air. I know next week we're going to start learning matches for WrestleMania 3. Then I learned that Hulk Hogan will respond to Andre's challenge. Will Hulk Hogan accept the match? That's must-see TV right there. But then, out of nowhere, it's never been mentioned or even implied before, Roddy Piper going to respond about a potential retirement next week. That's the last thing we hear as Superstars goes off the air, and I'm stuck sitting at home for the next 7 days wondering what the hell's going on with the Hot Rod. But oh my God, guys, top to bottom, holy fucking balls. What a stacked episode of Superstars. Has to go right up there near the top of the best Superstars episodes in the history of the WWF. And even the WWF haters like Dave Meltzer, they have to agree this was solid TV. No doubt about it. Kick things off hot, IC champion Randy Savage picking up a win. That's fine. But then you move on to the next matchup, the Hart Foundation stealing the WWF Tag Team titles from the British Bulldogs. After nearly a year reign as champs, the Bulldogs dropped the belts. Danny Davis visibly, clearly allowing that title change to happen, leaving with the Hart Foundation. We got the debut, not very impressive, but it was what it was, of Outback Jack in the ring. Hey, after months of build, I wanted to see it. And then, of course, that Piper's Pit, Hulk Hogan, blown away. Andre the Giant, now managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan, but that wasn't enough. No. Andre lays out the challenge. He wants a WWF title shot, and he wants it at WrestleMania, of all places. Simply a stacked episode of Superstars this week. And now we'll see how the sister show compares as we head on to Wrestling Challenge for February 8th, 1987. An All Right Wrestling Challenge, February 8th, taped back on January 27th, Fort Myers, Florida, at the Lee Civic Center. It's Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan on commentary as we head to the ring for the Birdman, Koko B. Ware, taking on Jimmy Jack Funk. And if you recall last week's episode, we talked about it at the end of the January TV episode of The Grenade. Wrestling Challenge concluding with the announcement of a rematch between Koko B. Ware and the King Harley Race. The last time those two were in the ring on Challenge, it was Danny Davis who allowed Race to steal a win over the Birdman. This was to be a rematch here, but it's not mentioned at all. And instead, it's Koko taking on Jimmy Jack Funk. Of course, this being a new TV taping, last week's episode was taped 3 weeks prior to this one. So apparently, plans changed. During the match from Koko, we get an insert promo from Slick. He can't stand a man with flashy clothes, a man who brags about himself, a man who is arrogant. A man with a nasty, stinky bird on his shoulder. Well, until that last one, I thought Slick was describing himself. So Slickster, he can't stand the Birdman Koko B. Ware. On Superstars, the Birdman talked about possibly meeting Butch Reed one day. So now we've heard from both sides. Inside the ring, the Funker, that's Jimmy Jack Funk, works over Koko Ware early. But Koko B. Ware coming back with his best impression of the Akeem dance before clearing the ring of Jimmy Jack Funk. Back inside, it doesn't take long. Koko B. Ware with the top rope drop kick and the Ghostbuster Brainbuster, getting the win in 2 minutes and 57 seconds. Very interesting also on commentary during this match, Bobby Heenan predicting that WrestleMania 3 is going to be held at Madison Square Garden, even though it was revealed on Superstars that it would be the Pontiac Silverdome. So I guess here in the Wrestling Challenge world, we just don't know yet. But that'll change shortly, guys, because we're off to Craig DeGeorge standing by with WWF President Jack Tunney. Jack Tunney announces that many cities have shown interest and put in bids for WrestleMania. England's Wembley Stadium, how ironic, Toronto's Maple Leaf Garden, New York City's Madison Square Garden. However, the site has been chosen as the Pontiac Silverdome, More than 90,000 seat capacity, guys. The largest event in professional wrestling history. WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome, says WWF President Tunney. As we go back to WWF Superstars and see the Hart Foundation steal the tag team titles from the British Bulldogs. And, well, he made his ring debut on Superstars, but here on Wrestling Challenge, he's still making his way to the United States. We get an Outback Jack vignette as he once again boards Qantas via the Sydney airport, and he's on his way to the WWF. Of course, we know on Superstars, Outback Jack has already arrived, even made his in-ring debut. It's very interesting that Superstars and Challenge were both typically aired on the same channels in syndication, but yet they were treated as two completely different entities. So you would have a way they would explain something on Superstars, and then they would go about explaining it completely differently sometimes on Wrestling Challenge. And here on Challenge, they go back to Superstars and show the title change between the Harts and the Bulldogs, but at the same time, they don't reference Outback Jack making his debut. And they do their own version of the WrestleMania 3 announcement, being at the Silverdome. So it's very interesting, some of the things we see here moving forward. And back to the ring, it's Jake the Snake Roberts taking on David Gold. Jake's still a heel here for the time being, but lots of pops from the fans. And as I got to looking at David Gold here, I noticed he kind of resembled a very young-looking Jerry Lynn. And I did some digging, but I couldn't really find anything on Gold outside of a match in the USWA Dallas territory versus Jeff Jarrett in 1990. And by then, he kind of looked like shit. So from Jerry Lynn to shit in just a few years. So, no, David Gold definitely not Jerry Lynn. And during the Snake Man match, we get an insert promo. Random choice here of Honky Tonk Man. During a Jake Roberts promo, the Honky Tonk Man says he doesn't like snakes. He doesn't want to be near those slimy snakes or anyone associated with them. In fact, if he encountered a snake, he'd make seat covers out of it. Interesting comments there from the Honky Tonk Man. Back to the action, it's the DDT. Jake Roberts scoring the win in just 1 minute and 11 seconds. And Damien follows. Again, fairly loud pops by the fans continue for the Snake Man. And then it's off to Mean Gene Okerlund conducting a promo with Billy Jack Haynes. No doubt Haynes has some things to talk about when it comes to the Mighty Hercules.
Billy Jack Haynes from Portland, Oregon, come on in. Now, you've been in the World Wrestling Federation a little less than 1 year. I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of 7, 8, 9 months?
Right, Gene, about 8 months now.
You take a look at everything that's happened in the very short amount of time that you've been here, and it really is unbelievable.
Gene, I have been in sports all my life. I was an amateur boxer, played ice hockey, basketball, football, baseball, and professional wrestling is by far the toughest sport in the world. I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I don't take drugs, and I want to encourage all you kids to do the same. Now I have to get right down to business, Gene, with this Hercules. Everybody's seen what he done on national TV when he put me in the full Nelson. I went out with my arms up, bing, bang, boom. Hey, the guy's tough, but we're going to see eventually who the master of the full Nelson is.
I saw all of that. I happened to be on hand at that particular instance. Bobby Heenan interjecting himself, distracting you, then Hercules taking advantage of the situation. But I think it's going to come right down to full Nelson on full Nelson.
It's going to have to, Gene. I'm not going to make any excuses or anything at all. This Hercules is a tough man. You can see he's in great condition. He's got the best manager in the business today, in World Wrestling Federation, of Bobby the Brain Heenan. And I'm in the best shape of my life. I know you are, Hercules, so I'm directing this right at you, man. Sign the contract, any town, any time, any place. When we get in that square circle, we'll see who the master of the full Nelson is, because, Gene, I'm not much on talk. And I hate to raise my voice, and I am no better than anybody else. But I'm going to tell you right to your face, Hercules, and the millions of people that are watching this, sign the contract, Heenan, stay out of it. Davis, if you're a referee, stay out of it. We will see who the master of the full Nelson is, Hercules.
I thank you very much, Billy Jack Haynes. Those comments directed to Hercules. We're going to be right back.
Really, Mr. Haynes? Billy Jack says, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Then, of course, goes on to talk his feud with the Mighty Hercules. Mean Gene Okerlund, replacing Ken Resnick here, has clearly taken over on promos again, and it's something I'm sure Mean Gene wasn't pleased with. Remember, Okerlund wasn't thrilled that he had to stand there all day and do all of these localized promos, these generic promos also for these syndicated shows, and he was happy whenever he got replaced by someone like a Ken Resnick or eventually a Sean Mooney. But for now, sorry, Mean Gene, back in the interview area.
Pass the fucking potatoes!
Pass the fucking potatoes, indeed. Up next, it's a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat vignette as he visits the Kennedy Institute for Handicapped Children. Steamer still talking quietly, selling that larynx injury just slightly, references his recent issues being quote-unquote unable to talk, talks about taking vocal communication for granted. He references the children surrounding him that have suffered speech impairment from birth or through injuries. Steamer then says that we have ways of getting around it, sign language and gestures. Steamboat and the children speak and sign the I love you using their hands. So this vignette here, you could look at this from a few angles, but mine is, what the fuck? Seriously? Now I'm glad Steamboat went there and spent time with the kids and all of that, but to use it in a direct reference to his angle, comparing himself to these kids, at one point he says, me and these children have suffered the same issues. We have ways of getting around it. And yes, I know this was not Ricky Steamboat's idea, but this was cheap and shitty and unnecessary to the storyline. I didn't like it at all. And you know what? I'd even be fine if they had implied on TV, if the announcers implied on TV, quote unquote, why Steamboat was there. But for Steamboat to say it in front of the kids in the promo, very poor taste, very poor idea. Not really shocked by it, knowing the WWF, but just odd seeing Steamboat go along with this. So now there are two things that Steamboat has done in my lifetime that have upset me. This and Starrcade 91 when he took advantage of poor Buddy Lee Parker. And as we prepare for more tag team action, first we go off to more promos. First, we're going to hear from the Macho Man Randy Savage discussing his potential upcoming match against Steamboat, and then we'll hear from the Dragon on the other side.
Randy Savage, quite obviously, you're going to have to forget about the fact that George the Animal Steel is going to be in the corner of Ricky Steamboat. You're going to have to concentrate on Steamboat and retaining the Intercontinental Championship of the World as part of WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome in Pontiac on March the 29th.
You're right. I'm going to concentrate on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat because nothing is going to go wrong. No, not at the Silverdome in all my glory. Yeah, the Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion will shine. Oh, yeah, big spectacle all over the world. Yeah, George the Animal Steel on the outside will be no problem at all. You're talking to the champion, and that makes it a big difference, yeah.
You know, Steamboat has promised that there will be no outside interference on the part of George the Animal Steel. He's just going to be an innocent bystander.
Yeah, an innocent bystander. There are none, no. Then they're all witnesses that file into the Silverdome, because it's going to be big. I mean real big. And I'm going to get the 1, 2, 3 count on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and possibly hurt him.
All right, it's going to be a title defense for the Intercontinental Champion, Macho Man Randy Savage, against Ricky Steamboat as part of WrestleMania 3.
But no incident has enraged the public so to what took place right here on national television between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. There's no doubt the Macho Man was trying to literally end the career of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, but being the kind of man he is, the Dragon is come back. And I think it's safe to say has come back as good as ever, as yet another national television audience was witness to. And Ricky, first off, I know physically that you're back in action, but mentally, what took place on national television had to take its toll.
You know something, Kenny? That's very, very true. Of the weeks that ran into 2 months that I laid up, and each weekend I'd watch wrestling every weekend like everybody else. Listen to Randy Savage proclaim the fact that he put me out of wrestling. I had the tape on my TV set and watched it time and time again. And you would think that a man that would still hold some morals as a professional wrestler, being the Intercontinental Champion, second only to Hulk Hogan, our champion. But to do what he did, I'd like to ask him a general question, Savage, and that is, coming off the top rope with a 20-pound bell, let me ask you something, my friend. How much control do you think you had jumping off the top rope and coming down on my throat with that bell?
Well, Ricky, there's no question from that height with the bell, there's no way he had any control whatsoever.
That's understandable, and that's the reason why I talk the way I do. It's your fault. And the reason I feel the way I do towards you, Savage, it's also your fault. I'm not crying over spilled milk, believe me. I'm giving you warnings. Warnings, my friend, that wherever we should meet, talk to some of my opponents and what they've done to me in the past. Kenny, you've seen them. When this dragon gets on fire, his opponents burn.
I don't think there's any question about that whatsoever. And yet, speaking of the Macho Man, Randy Savage, yet another incident took place on national television when George the Animal Steele, literally, George, carried off Miss Elizabeth. And although you've given her back, I don't think the Macho Man or Elizabeth have heard the end of George the Animal.
Savage lose everything. He come on Saturday night, main event, with everything. Belt, Elizabeth. Now he exit empty.
All right, so it looks like it's bound to happen, guys. The Macho Man and Steamboat IC title on the line as part of WrestleMania 3. We're going to hear a whole lot more from both guys, no doubt, for the next couple months here. But for now, we head back to the ring. It's time for tag team action. Standing inside that ring, we see Special Delivery Jones, along with his partner for the night, Don Driggers. They're getting ready to take on the team of Demolition. Here comes the Axe, and here comes the Smasher. Wait, this is no Moondog Rex. This is Smash version 2.0. Demolition head to the ring with luscious Johnny V by their side. This Smash has nothing more than stubble for hair and black paint smeared down his biceps. The reason? To hide his recognizable tattoos, guys. You see, this Smash is Barry Darsow, a.k.a. Crusher Khrushchev from Jim Crockett Promotions. Last we saw old Crusher, his head was still shaved, which explains the stubble here as Smash begins to let his hair grow in. So for those who are used to seeing Demolition in their prime, Smash with the long hair, go back and give this version a look. It'll blow your mind. As Smash is nearly bald, far more bulky as well, even bigger than Axe here in February of '87. And Smash, he wouldn't be this bald again until
Repo Man.
Also to note here, just 1 month's time, Demolition have changed up their face paint style. It also appears that Axe has cut back on the spray paint in the hair, and the furry boots also now gone from the Demolition attire. So you can kind of tell what ideas were Randy Colley's possibly. As the match gets going, Smash no-sells SD Jones's offense, which actually was pretty cool. Demolition then demolish and destroy. Smash catapults Driggers into an Axe clothesline for the finish. Now that's how you do it, Killer Bees. So we don't get the decapitation here in Barry Darsow's debut as Demolition, but rather Smash catapulting Driggers up into the air into an Axe clothesline. Demolition picking up the win in just 1 minute and 56 seconds. And you know, as we look at Johnny V as the manager here, I always used to question why managers would have two tag teams because there's only one title here in the WWF. But even here in this match, we actually got an insert promo from the Dream Team, which is Johnny V's other tag team, where Valentine says that he trusts Johnny V, knows what he's doing, and with two teams, they can divide and conquer. And then Brutus Beefcake pointing out that the Dream Team look better than Demolition. And perhaps they do look better, but they certainly don't look cooler. Axe and Smash, the ones we come to know and love. Bill Eadie, Barry Darsow, now in full effect. Demolition is together and all is right in the world here as we begin February of 1987. And it'll be a while before they truly dominate the tag team division, but in the meantime, I'm going to have fun watching Demolition. All right, and it's at this point in Wrestling Challenge that Bobby Heenan leaves commentary to play up that somehow this next segment is happening here on Wrestling Challenge. Because once again, we see it is the Piper's Pit featuring Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant from Superstars. So you see what I mean about how they treat these shows as two different entities? Bobby Heenan comes onto the set on Superstars with Andre, but he's an announcer here, the color commentator, if you will, on Wrestling Challenge. And Andre actually leaves the commentary booth to go be part of this Piper's Pit, even though it already aired on Superstars. So you got to give the WWF an A for effort, an A for continuity at the very least. An explanation as to where Bobby Heenan goes, and we once again see that very important Piper's Pit segment involving Hulk Hogan and Andre. And then we're back to the ring here on Challenge. Adorable Adrian Adonis, Jimmy Hart in his corner, taking on Mario Mancini, and we get an insert promo from the adorable Adrian. He says the Roddy Piper retirement rumors are just that, rumors. But if Hot Rod wrestles Adonis, he will be retired. In the ring, Adrian Adonis picking Mancini up for what looked to be an atomic drop, but instead of dropping him on his knee, drops him down to the mat, setting him up for Good Night Irene. Adonis with the very quick win in just 1 minute and 11 seconds. Near the end of the match, a laughing Bobby Heenan, quote-unquote, returns to commentary. to announce he's officially signed Andre the Giant to a contract. Bobby Heenan has acquired the rights to the 8th wonder of the world. As it's off to the WrestleMania 3 bumper.
WrestleMania 3. Bigger, better, better.
And back to the ring, more tag team action, this time Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel, Tom Zink, taking on the team of Iron Mike Sharp and Steve Lombardi. Now there's a job team. As the match gets going, we get an insert promo from Mr. Fuji, Bob Orton, and Magnificent Morocco. They say sooner or later the Pretty Boys will have to wrestle the real men. In the ring, it's Tom Zink with an O'Connor roll early on with Steve Lombardi, but Mike Sharp in to break up the cover. Rick Martel tags in, and we get a little Hardy Boys poetry in motion. Many years early, Rick Martel running across the ring, jumping off the back of Tom Zink into a monkey flip in the corner on Lombardi. And then Zink up, drop-kicking Mike Sharp off the apron. I wrote, holy shit, for 1987, I didn't see any of this coming. A little poetry in motion by the Can-Am Connection. And then Tom Zink pops up and drop-kicking Mike Sharp off the apron as well. Really fun tag team stuff here by the Can-Ams. The match goes on, though. We get a nasty knee from Iron Mike Sharp on the apron into the back of Tom Zink as he's running into the ropes, and the heels manage to take control. Double teaming and keeping Zink in their corner. Lots of fast tags by the heels, and solid heel work to boot. And we get an actual extended heat segment here that I can actually buy into. We even get a false tag spot here that the referee misses when Zink tags out to Martel. The referee misses it. Really interesting booking. But the future Z-Man finally crawls through the legs of Lombardi, and it's the hot tag to Rick Martel. Martel on fire. Lays it in on both men before tagging Zink back in and setting it up for Zink. A slingshot sunset flip into the ring on Steve Lombardi. But Iron Mike Sharp once again in to break up the count. Haven't you learned anything, Martel? Keep Zink out of the ring. You were doing fine on your own. Mike Sharp celebrates the block pinfall, but Zink drop kicks him out of the ring for his troubles. Then it's Tom Zink with a big power slam on Lombardi. Tag back to Martel, who nails a beautiful slingshot splash. Bombs away back inside. Rick Martel gets the win over Lombardi, 4 minutes and 19 seconds. And you know, guys, I was really impressed with Lombardi and Sharp here. It's honestly the best either have looked, in my opinion, in a long time. And the Can-Ams, going back, watching them again for the first time in a very long time, really gelled well together. Martel was just so fucking good. Tom Zink was competent enough to take the heat and what was needed on the offense from his end when the time came. Both guys certainly looked the part. They certainly fit the part. Vince saw money with the Can-Am Connection and is prepared to push them to the moon. The only thing that could go wrong here at this point is if one of them was nonsensical enough to absurdly walk away from the push due to being batshit crazy. That'll never happen, right? Before we close the show, Bobby Heenan on commentary, he questions why Hulk Hogan never offered Andre the Giant a title match. And Gorilla not only doesn't deny that Hulk Hogan never offered him one, but Monsoon deflects the question by noting that it's not Hulk's place to offer title matches. It's the championship committees. So Gorilla Monsoon doesn't really want to answer the question that Bobby Heenan posed. Why didn't Hulkster ever offer Andre a title shot? Well, Gorilla makes a point there. It is up to the championship committee, but it seems like Monsoon would have defended the Hulkster a little more. Interesting there. And before we move on to the next week of TV, it's one more Mean Gene promo. This time he stands by. Really fun promo, guys. You got to listen to this one. Mean Gene interviews the natural Butch Reed and Slick.
Having an opportunity at this hour to speak with one of the great managers here on the World Wrestling Federation. He is considered the doctor of style, and indeed he is all of that. I could only be talking about Slick, and of course, Slick, as you know, I'm very well aware of your managerial experience. I know about those 6 gals you managed up in Detroit.
You know, let me tell you something. Are you here to interview or insult?
I'm not here to do any insulting, I can guarantee you that. The natural Butch Reed. What in the world is going on? Tito Santana ended up a couple of weeks ago body slamming you of all people.
And the first issue I want to address concerning that matter is that it was an unprovoked attack.
Well, now, that's not the way I get it, in all due respect, Slick. Apparently you interjected yourself into his match just a little too much.
No, let me clarify that. I simply tried to issue some instructions to my men And when I did that, that no good, low life, red pepper, tamale eating Tito Santana, better known as Chico, had the nerve to try to put his hands on me. Well, I've got a remedy for a problem, and the problem is you, Santana, and you're looking at the remedy right here.
I am the remedy. I am the medicine that Tito Santana needs. And so, if it's a good whooping that you want, then I am the natural man to do it, you understand? Because nobody puts their hands on this man unless it's me. And when I put my hands on him, it's with respect. And it's with friendship. I respect this man. He's my bread and butter, and I'm his, and we take care of each other. And so now, Tito Santana, you made your bed hard, boy, and you definitely gonna lay in it. Because we're tired of you running around here, skinning and grinning, talking loud and saying nothing. So I got something for you, Santana. I got some advice for you right now, and later on, fool, I'm going to give you a good whooping. Wherever it might be, you get that across the MG open. Somebody better talk to the fool because he's messing up bad.
Butch Reed and Slick, in all due respect, I'm certain you're aware of the tremendous credentials that Tito Santana possesses. He's really done it all here in the World Wrestling.
Tito Santana is not aware of the credentials that the natural man has either, because I am a natural athlete. Boy, I got something right here that when I put it on you, your mama ain't gonna be able to recognize you when I get done with you. So you people get ready, and you especially, Santana.
Thank you, the natural Butch Reed, along with manager Slick.
We're gonna get rid of it.
Mean Gene having a little fun. You can tell Mean Gene's back in the promos. Ken Resnick out. Mean Gene having fun yet again, trying to keep these interviews from being monotonous. Mean Gene says he knows Slick's background as a manager. Those 6 gals he managed up in Detroit. From there, Slick talked about the red pepper tamale eating Chico Santana putting his hands on him. Nobody puts their hands on Slick besides Butch Reed. In friendship, that is. Good save there by the natural. As they continue to seem to set up a feud between Butch Reed and Tito Santana, but yet we get that insert promo from Coco Beware and the Doctor of Style Slick during their matches. So it looks like Reed has a couple of mini feuds here set up for him. And I had to LOL as the natural promos continue to get more hilarious, as not only is his blonde hair unnatural, but clearly so are the massive arms and the chest of Butch Reed as well. I still love me some Butch Reed, though. And we move on to next week. It is the special Friday the 13th edition of Prime Time Wrestling, February 13th, 1987, hosted by Gorilla Monsoon Bobby the Brain Heenan. And it can't be ignored, so immediately we go right into the Piper's Pit. We see Andre the Giant issuing that challenge to Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania. Bobby Heenan, now the manager of Andre. We come back to the primetime set. Gorilla Monsoon has a lot of questions. Bobby Heenan has a lot of answers.
We talked earlier on in the program about this despicable person sitting to my right here. We're going to find out in just a moment how despicable he really is.
You'll never know.
You'll never. What do you mean I'll never know? Well, I'm about to find out.
I've got despicable tricks in my bag that I haven't even reached for yet.
I'm sure you do. What you did to Andre the Giant will certainly come out sooner or later.
Sure.
It will come out. Right now we're going to go to special tape.
If I want
Rowdy
it to.
Roddy Piper.
If I don't want it to, it won't.
What on earth are you doing with Andre the Giant? What business could you possibly have with Andre the Giant? A man that you literally had suspended from the World Wrestling Federation and from professional wrestling.
Time heals all wounds. Things pass in life. Sometimes, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I see something out there. Maybe Andre the Giant saw something. That's nobody's business. But you notice this world's champion, this great man everybody looks up to, Hulk Hogan,
you're right,
did not answer the challenge. When I put the question to him, for 3 years, this man held the world's championship. Did you once ever offer Andre the Giant a championship match?
That's not his job.
He started choking. As sweat was pouring off him, he never once said, Andre, I'm sorry, you got a championship. I'll make it up to you. You can have my purse. Didn't say nothing. Just shook. You tell me this miserable excuse for a champion isn't scared? He isn't worried.
Scared of what?
He's scared of Andre the Giant.
Andre
He's
the
not scared
Giant,
of me.
Please, give me a break.
Did he offer
That's not his job to offer.
He's the champion of the world. He can do what he wants.
Andre the Giant, did he ever come out and ask for a title match up to that point? No.
I don't know that. I heard that he didn't. I heard that he's asked a lot of times, and they always put him on the
shelf. Did you see the look on the Giant's face? Looked like he underwent a lobotomy or something. What did you do to the guy?
I made the Giant wake up. I opened his eyes to what's happening. How everybody's sticking it to him, trying to make a fool. You know something you don't know about either? Hulk Hogan has even laughed at this man and called him a freak.
That's a lie. That's
He's
a
called him a
bold-faced
freak.
lie. We've heard enough lies for the last
I heard enough
several
lies. You ask
moments.
me a question, I'll tell you the answer.
Silverdome, Pontiac, Michigan, the site
he won't
of
accept
WrestleMania 3.
He'll make some flimsy excuse.
Greatest professional wrestling event in the history of the sport.
Got laid off of work.
What are you talking about?
Or his aunt or an uncle.
You have any idea?
Don't bother me anymore.
What the seating capacity is in the Silverdome, Pontiac, Michigan?
Around 90, 100,000.
In excess of 90,000.
That's correct.
Well, I should hope so. Not only
he's
that.
not going to be calling as Hogan.
Yeah.
He's going to be getting a ticket
He won't
to Guam.
He won't need a ticket. I'll tell you that.
Gorilla's saying that, what did Bobby do with Andre? He looks like he had a lobotomy out there. The Brain says that, well, maybe he made a mistake when he had Andre suspended. The Brain continues to go on about Hogan never offering Andre a title shot. He didn't even answer the challenge on Piper's Pit. He thinks the Hulkster's a coward. And I don't know if you guys caught it here, but it was very visible when I was watching it, or very audible, I should say, when I was watching the actual episode of Prime Time Wrestling, February 13th. Go back, check it out yourself. If you didn't hear it here in the promo, but Bobby Heenan, for this entire portion of the show, talked with a very noticeable lisp here. He doesn't really have it for the entire episode of Prime Time, but it's very audible here. I wrote, dental procedure? ? A few cocktails, perhaps? I don't really know what the story is because Bobby doesn't have it throughout the entire episode, but it's very noticeable here in this specific segment. Bobby Heenan with a real lisp, or a slur, if you will. But up next, we're off to Memphis, Tennessee. It's the Honky Tonk Man. Honky recording at the famous Phillips Recording Studio. Let's hear from old Honk.
We're going to take you right now to Memphis, Tennessee, in the studio that made history with really the legend of all time, talking about
long
Elvis
distance
Presley.
information?
Let's go to Honky
Give me
Tonk.
Memphis, Tennessee.
Honky Tonk gets the tape, baby. That sounds great, baby. Great.
That was great, baby. That was great. Hey, can't you feel the excitement in this room? This is the guitar that Elvis played all of his hits on. This is the stool that he sat on. This microphone is the microphone that Elvis used for all of his hits. Don't you feel the excitement, Honky Tonk, huh?
Well, Colonel Jimmy, I appreciate all this confidence you're trying to give me, and I appreciate you setting all this up for the Honky Tonk Man and for the whole world to see. But the Honky Tonk Man could care less about this being Elvis Presley's guitar. And I could really care less about this being the microphone where he slobbered when he sang Don't Be Cruel. And what the Honky Tonk Man could really care less about is sitting on this stool where Elvis Presley sat with his big fat rump when his beer belly was hanging over. As you see, Jimmy, Elvis Presley couldn't carry a tune if it had handles on it. Now, the Honky Tonk Man was born a singer. My mama told me when I was a little bitty boy, she said, son, you sang that song, you walk that walk and talk that talk. That's something Elvis Presley could never do. You see, I got my natural black hair. It's not dyed jet black like his was. I don't have to put grease on it. People don't have to go around looking at me saying I'm a grease ball because I'm not like Elvis Presley at all. I don't put grease on my hair. I sing a song, I sing it right. I'm going to be the #1 man in the World Wrestling Federation, whether it's singing or wrestling, Jimmy.
Often imitated, but never ever duplicated. The Honky Tonk Man.
How on earth can he try to belittle a man with the reputation of Elvis Presley? Give me a break, right? You know anything about Elvis Presley and what he did and the monumental things that he did? Well, what has this guy done other than take this piece of garbage from somewhere and make him a colonel?
He's an individualist, that's all.
He's an individual.
Yeah, I think Elvis probably, you saw this man wrestle years ago, and copied most of his...
Please.
Well, he dresses and stuff.
Give me a break, will you please?
I like
Elvis
Jimmy
Presley had a great... Did you ever hear this guy sing? I haven't heard him sing yet.
No, I haven't. I haven't heard him sing either.
I haven't heard him play?
But I heard from Jimmy Hart that he's very good. It's good enough for me.
Fun little conversation there. Elvis copied the Honky Tonk Man. Well, actually, Elvis was a wrestling fan. A women's fan anyway. He used to go to the old Ellis Auditorium and check out the ladies' matches hiding behind the curtain because there was no way the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, could sit in the stands. I'll tell you that. So I think Elvis was digging wrestling long before the Honky Tonk Man. And there's always been those stories actually documented and verified that shortly before the king passed away, that's Elvis Presley I'm talking about, Jerry Lawler and company had actually sent out feelers to try to set up some sort of a match between Jerry the King Lawler versus Elvis Presley. Had that went down in the late 70s into 1980, you want to talk about huge. Easily the greatest celebrity match of all time. You couldn't even try to top that. But it's back to the primetime set as Gorilla and Bobby with even more talk of Andre the Giant.
On the interview that we saw, okay, Andre had an awfully strange look on his face. Has he gone under some kind of treatment or something at the hands of, at the behest of you?
I have been evasive about my connections in this
you
whole
can say
matter.
that again.
But I'll tell you right now, and I'll tell everybody out there. Yes, I am the exclusive manager of Andre the Giant. You want to talk to him, you talk to me. You want to do business with Andre, you talk to me. Hogan, you want to mail the belt, you mail it to me.
Mail the belt for what? What are you talking about?
Save him from getting a big beating in Pontiac Stadium.
Who's
the
to
Silverdome.
Who's to say that Hulk Hogan, or in fact the Championship Committee of the World Wrestling Federation, will see Andre the Giant as the number one?
No, he's not the number one contender. I realize that.
You're definitely
but
right.
He will be when I'm done working
back.
this thing out. See, that's what I'm here.
And the Gorilla continues to talk Andre's stoic, zombie-like stare, no more emotion in his face for the Giant. Monsoon asks the Brain, did Andre have a treatment of some sort? Bobby then confirms he is the exclusive manager of Andre the Giant. He warns the Hulkster, you don't want to get in the ring with this man. You can mail him the belt. How awesome would that have been if Hulk Hogan had mailed the championship belt to Andre the Giant? And with WrestleMania 3 right around the corner, Gorilla and Bobby talk about the destination now announced as the Silverdome.
Yeah, the Silverdome. The Silverdome.
What do you mean, why the Silverdome? Number one, because they outbid every other major facility, sporting facility in the entire world. Number two, it's 90,000 plus unobstructed vision seats. Number three, it's within a 1 hour flight or a 1 day's drive for 60% of the population of the United States. How many more reasons would you want than that?
Wait a minute. 60% of the people in the world?
No, in the United States.
I mean, want to live that close to Michigan?
Please. Why not?
So that means 40% of the people are bright.
Give me a break.
That's what you're trying to tell me.
Silverdome will be a happening, wrestling fans. It will be the greatest wrestling extravaganza of all time. I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Let's go to Leapy.
All right, and Gorilla there putting over all the reasons why WrestleMania 3 is in Detroit. Detroit being within 1 day's driving distance for 60% of the U.S. population. Bobby Heenan's response? That means only 40% are smart. Classic Brain. Though the matches haven't been confirmed as part of the WrestleMania report yet, we learn here on Primetime one of the big matches coming up at WrestleMania 3 will feature Hillbilly Jim, along with Little Beaver, and the Haiti Kid taking on the team of King Kong Bundy, Lord Littlebrook, and Little Tokyo. Can't wait to hear what Bobby has to say about that one.
This is a match that you supposedly signed. The six-man, mixed six-man.
Oh, yes,
King
I can
Kong
tell you
Bundy.
the score already. Bundy won, Hillbilly
Please.
nothing, Midget smashed.
Team 1, King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook. And on the other side, Hillbilly Jim and Haiti Kid and Little Beaver.
Well, I thought it was fair because Haiti Kid and Little Beaver are small little guys, but Hillbilly Jim, everybody knows he has a midget mentality. That made sense to me on that side. And then you get Little Tokyo and Littlebrook on one side and the massive King Kong Bundy on the other. Can you imagine just laying out those four little midgets? And have Bundy just come through the air and...
Is that what you have in mind?
Instant midget. Psst, all over the ring. That's what I got in mind, yeah.
You think that would be funny, don't you?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see King Kong Bundy squash you one time.
All right, and the prediction for the end of that match, Bundy won, Hillbilly nothing, the midgets smashed. Heenan then giving us a visual of King Kong Bundy laying out the four little midgets and Bundy smashing them all. Instant midget, says Bobby the Brain Heenan. Yikes. From there, the hosts get into a conversation about Rowdy Roddy Piper and his kilt.
Talk about classic confrontations. We have one coming up right now. Rowdy Roddy Piper taking on the adorable one, Adrian Adonis. A lot of scores to be settled here.
Well, Rowdy Roddy Piper needs to be put in his place.
What do you mean needs to be put in his place?
Well, there's a guy who thinks just because he wears some plaid mini skirt and has
a kilt.
A kilt. Pardon me. A lot of people that wear a kilt, don't you? No.
No, not really.
No, I don't either.
I'm sure Roddy does.
Well, probably he does. He hangs around that element of people that wear kilts, mini kilts or go-go kilts or whatever you want to call them.
What somebody wears what got to do with anything?
Exactly.
Like Adrian at times wore a dress, too. So what? You know.
Well, that wasn't a mini kilt, though. A kilt's ridiculous.
Classic confrontation, as we said earlier on. So let's go to ringside right now before the fountain
He
gets
had
any
2 dresses
deeper.
I knew you were eyeing.
That's good.
So Bobby trying to shit all over Piper's kilt there. Gorilla Monsoon points out that Adrian Adonis has worn a dress in the past. Bobby's response, well, yeah, but a kilt, it's ridiculous. Heenan never letting us down with a response. As we close out this edition of Primetime Wrestling, Gorilla Monsoon is asked to pick the winner should a match between Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan take place. In this segment, taking place coming out of a match from Boston Garden we talked about last week, it was Bruno Sammartino and the Macho Man Randy Savage. Bobby Heenan having a little fun with the living legend.
We haven't seen the last of this feud.
You can bet on that. I guarantee you that the Macho Man wasn't in any hurry to sign any return clauses against the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. Why? If he had put that bear hug on earlier on in the match, he could have been wearing some gold again.
That's right. He could have been the Intercontinental Champion.
No question in my mind.
Wasn't smart enough to do it, though, were you, Goomba?
Well, the opportunity obviously didn't present itself.
Wasn't smart enough.
That's not the question.
You asked me the question.
Opportunity has to be there to do it, to have your man in a compromising position enough to be able to do that.
You going to give me your pick?
Why do you keep bugging me? I told you before the program is over, I will give you my pick if the match should ever take place.
Oh, they're going to have to force it. Because
who are you going to force?
Hogan.
You're going to force somebody
How's he going to back out of it? He's mentally whipped. Now, Andre and I have mentally whipped this poor beast. Now, the next thing, he's going to have to sign. He's not going to be able to back out under any way and still save face. I've got him where I want him, right here.
Well, that wraps up another week here on Primetime Wrestling. As usual, we delivered some tremendous matches, and there's so many exciting things happening.
Are you going to give me an answer?
What answer to what?
Who you would pick if the match took place? I'll tell you, Miss Betty is flying in from Beverly Hills. She has bought the first Wrestling Mania ticket for her and her date, Alan.
Oh, how lovely. You know what she gets for that?
No, what?
Close your eyes. What do you see?
Nothing.
That's what she gets. As usual, next week here on Primetime, there'll be, I'm looking forward to one specific thing, and that is the reply of World's Heavyweight Champion Hulk Hogan to
He's going to have to reply. He's going to have
challenge
to. He's going to have to
this
say,
berserk individual right here.
You're going to call me mad, aren't you?
Yes.
Crazy, berserk.
If the match goes down, I
strap that belt around Andre. You're going to call me mad, berserk?
All right, and Heenan mocking Bruno Sammartino there as we learn that Hulk Hogan will reply to Andre the Giant's challenge next week on TV. That's this weekend. And with Primetime being on Friday, that's tomorrow on Superstars. And I don't know if you caught it right at the tail end during that outro music, but Gorilla Monsoon said should the match happen, he would pick Hulk Hogan to be the winner over Andre the Giant. All right, and before we move on, he may be pulled from syndicated promos, but at this point, he's got a few in the can here still for Primetime Wrestling. We're going to go to Ken Resnick talking to Jake the Snake Roberts.
We've talked about it many times indeed. The meteoric rise to the top of the World Wrestling Federation by one man that they say is the coldest-blooded man to ever set foot in a professional wrestling ring, referring to, of course, none other than Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, Jake Roberts, we have certainly seen in action the devastation that comes from the DDT, but a lot of people beginning to analyze that finishing hold you use, and really it is perhaps the only, or certainly one of the few finishing holds in professional wrestling that really require no setup. I have seen you, it looks like in a match coming close to being beaten, where out of the clear blue, the DDT, in a New York second, as they say, and suddenly it's 1, 2, 3, your arm
You know
up.
something else they say? They say lightning only strikes once.
True.
The same place. Seldom does it have to strike twice. You ever think about that? The sunglasses, why the sunglasses? Well, the DDT and Damien and myself, our stuff is happening so good, so quick. Our future is so bright, it's about to blind me. But I'm going to take them off and get real serious with you just for a moment. You know, everybody's strutting around trying to pick this thing apart, and they can't pick it apart. They say, well, he got lucky. Well, I wouldn't catch myself in that position, been over there like that, and letting him hook my head. You ever thought you didn't have a choice? You see, I'd take the most innocent person in this world, and I'd take him and drive him to the face of the mat. Yeah, but that's my job. That's why I got to do it. That's why I step up front when I do it. But I've warned everybody. I've given them all the signs. I told them to step back and let me go, now didn't I?
That you have.
And they don't stop. Are they brave or they foolish? A lot of brave dead people out there. A lot of them. But the DDT and me and Damien, my man, it's like a moving locomotive. It's hard to stop, and they can't do it.
He is indeed Jake the Snake Roberts. We'll be back with more Primetime right after this.
Really good line there as Resnick tries to put over Jake's DDT is coming out of nowhere. DDT out of nowhere. I love the response from Jake the Snake. He says, they say lightning only strikes once in the same place. Well, seldom does it need to strike twice. You can always depend on a classic line or two from Jake the Snake Roberts anytime he's got a microphone in front of him. And we're off to WWF Superstars for February 14th, taped January 26th, Tampa, Florida. Once again at the Sun Dome, it's Vince McMahon, Jesse Ventura, Bruno Sammartino, and Happy Valentine's Day, people. And right away, we go back to last week. We see the Hart Foundation stealing a win over the British Bulldogs and capturing the WWF Tag Team titles with major help from referee Danny Davis. Something has to be done, and it has to be done right now. As we head backstage, it's Craig DeGeorge standing by with WWF President Jack Tunney. Tunney says he has an important statement to make about referee Danny Davis after the tag title change from last week. Danny Davis then walks by the two. As Jack Tunney tries to stop him for conversation, Davis pays no mind and sprints out to ringside. Tunney trying to catch up behind him all the way. Jack Tunney jogging out behind Danny Davis to the ring, where Tito Santana happens to be standing by for a match. Davis hits the ring and argues with the official referee for the match and knocks that referee on his ass. Danny Davis now attacking other officials. Tito Santana then gets involved and argues very heatedly with Danny Davis as Davis threatens to deck Tito Santana. Davis looks ready to throw down and get physical with Mr. Ariba. But just then, President Jack Tunney, standing ringside, motions for the microphone from the Fink. Tunney announces to Davis and the fans alike that referee Danny Davis is suspended for life as the crowd pops huge. Well, it's about damn time. That only took like 5 months. Nevertheless, it gets an insane pop from the crowd. And you would think that suspended for life means he's fired as referee, but I guess in WWF terms, suspended for life equals about 2 years. Danny Davis be back refereeing 1989. But that's another project and another time here on The Grenade. Danny Davis is fired here as an official, and he is hot. Davis, standing in the ring, begins arguing with Jack Tunney at ringside, kicking through the ropes, trying to get a crack at the president, even shoving Tito Santana. Danny Davis no longer employed here by the WWF when out of nowhere comes Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart shows up at ringside and tries to calm Davis down. Hart grabs hold of Davis and persuades him to leave with him. And before we talk about my thoughts here, let's talk about Dave Meltzer's narrative of this segment here. He says, the reason Howard Finkel gave Jack Tunney the microphone outside the ring was because poor Jack appeared to have blown up chasing Davis down the runway. Now, there's no doubt Jack Tunney isn't a spring chicken here in his early 50s, and he's heavier here in the 80s than he was in the 90s, but he did manage to jog down to ringside and played his part at ringside. He sounded perfectly fine in his delivery. He wasn't huffing and puffing. He wasn't out of breath. This just feels like another Meltzer narrative, another one of those Dave being Dave things here. Now, as for my take, very interesting. Out of nowhere, out of the blue, we had to wait a week. It didn't happen immediately after the title change. It did take a week, but kudos to Jack Tunney. He finally made the right decision. It took months of Danny Davis pulling his shenanigans, but finally, Davis is fired as an official of the World Wrestling Federation, but we'll have to wait and see what goes on between Davis and Jimmy Hart. And as I mentioned, Tito Santana in the ring for action, ready to take on Terry Gibbs. With Tito distracted by the whole Danny Davis thing, Gibbs attacks him from behind to start the match, but Tito ducks a clothesline and immediately nails the big flying forearm, gets the win in just 29 seconds. And you kind of needed that here to keep the excitement going for the segment. So this all played into one big segment. Danny Davis getting fired, the crowd popping huge, Terry Gibbs attacking Santana, Santana unloading with his finisher almost immediately, scoring the win, keeping the fans popping and on their feet for the entire segment. Really good booking here by the WWF. They are rolling on all cylinders at this point, heading into the big pay-per-view. As it's time for a WWF update. By all indications, a new world indoor attendance record will be set at WrestleMania 3 at the Silverdome, as the WWF is expecting 90,000 plus in attendance. WrestleMania 3 will also be available via closed-circuit TV and pay-per-view.
WrestleMania 3. Bigger, better, better.
Then back to the ring tag team action. The Magnificent Morocco and Cowboy Bob Orton with Mr. Fuji in their corner, taking on the team of Lanny Poffo and Neil von Stroheim. Not Leo von Stroheim, as reported online. And now, guys, the genius, Lanny Poffo has a poem for us all.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, a poem from Mr. Poffo.
All right. In this world of wrestling giants, one man puts them all to shame. And he's every bit as rugged as the Alps from where he came. The French-born Andrei Roussimov's no stranger to our shore, but we call him Andre the Giant, because he's every inch and more. And millions stand in line to see God's mightiest creation, who's been called the greatest athlete of any generation. But he's never had a title shot, and we know very well Hulk Hogan has a broken heart and Andre's mad as hell. What will be the Hulk's reply, we'll have to wait and see. Till then, we're counting down the days till WrestleMania 3.
So naturally, this would be where Lanny would cut a poem on Morocco and Orton, but instead, they're using this to further hype the upcoming Hogan and Andre storyline. Poffo questions, will Hogan accept the challenge here in this poem as he hypes the potential match for WrestleMania 3. So they're using every aspect of every show to get this big match over. Well played there by the Poet Laureate. Now the Morocco and Orton match itself continues to be a backdrop to build the Hogan and Andre suspense. We get an insert promo from Hillbilly Jim. Hillbilly picking at that guitar. As Jim gives his thoughts, he thinks the Hulkster will accept the challenge of Andre the Giant and go on to defeat Andre at WrestleMania 3. Now as for the action in the ring, almost immediately Von Stroheim attempts an arm drag on a Bob Orton tackle spot, and it looks like the Cowboy is pissed off. The heels keeping Von Stroheim in their corner for double teaming and driving him into the mat with a simple slam, picking him up for a normal scoop slam, but driving him down to the mat. I don't know what Von Stroheim thought he was doing, but that'll teach him to try to get in some offense. Bob Orton plants him with an assisted suplex, followed by a Don Morocco tombstone piledriver on poor Neil. The heels get the victory in just 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Lanny Poffo never tags into the match. He was merely here to recite a poem, it would appear. The heels do work over Poffo post-match and toss him from the ring. Also on commentary during this match, Vince McMahon brings up Roddy Piper's potential retirement due to many offers from Hollywood. Jesse Ventura is shocked at the news. Vince then gives it back to Jesse Ventura. He says the Body would be shocked because he's not used to getting so many Hollywood offers. An angry Ventura replies, there's not enough room in Hollywood for both the Body and the Hot Rod. Wow, well, I don't think either guy's going to have to worry too much about that. But fun little note there is Vince kind of hypes Roddy Piper's upcoming retirement, and he's acknowledging the Hot Rod is off to Hollywood to go make some movies. Of course, Jesse Ventura has been out there for a couple years now doing the same thing. And eventually we would get the tag team movie in 1990 with both Ventura and Piper as the co-stars of that movie. It was actually supposed to be a pilot for a TV show that didn't get picked up. I remember watching that movie late night Friday night after an episode of Spotlight back in 1990. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Unfortunately, the TV show wasn't meant to be. Now, as for this match here, Morocco and Orton, my hot take here. This is my hot take, guys. Now, growing up in this era, I always saw Orton and Morocco as a bland team with no personality. Looking back now, they worked so well together. And honestly, they should have based on their experience by this point. Personally, I think the issue with the team was once Roddy Piper moved on away from feuding with Orton and Morocco and the like, they were really never given anything else to do, just bodies for the tag division. So as a kid, I wasn't really impressed. They kind of lacked the sizzle, as Jim Ross likes to call it. But looking back here, a really solid heel team just never given anything to do. And that's really unfortunate. Hey guys, let's take a quick break in the action and hear from Blackjack Mulligan. Yep, still here in the WWF.
All right, hi again, everybody. A break in the action here on the Superstars of Wrestling. We're going to get you back to more of the same in just a moment or two. I want to bring in one of the premier superstars, and he has been for quite some time. The big man from Sweetwater, Texas. He is none other than Blackjack Mulligan. And so many things
happening in the World Wrestling Federation. I can't believe it.
Well, I'll tell you something, Gene. You get excited about it. Take a look at the champ. Brother, he's knocking them out left and right. A lot of things happening down on the ranch, too. You know, I just had a discussion. More and more, I'm starting to spend time back with wrestling because that is my first love, you know. It's going down there just delivering a lot of knuckle sandwiches. But I just had a talk with Spider, and Spider said, Spider is my foreman, of course.
Your foreman at
he
the
runs
ranch?
We had a good calf crop last year, good hay crop, a lot of eggs, everything's going real good. So he said, Jackie Leroy, what you need to do is get on the circuit there and spend a little more time wrestling and really get your mind into it. And it's amazing how far it can carry you, you know. And I'm gonna tell you something, with people like Bundy, Macho Man Savage, and all these people. Just the other day, Uncle Ruby Joe, he said, what you really got to do once you get out there and really set your mind to it, like Spider said, we know what you can do. So the WWF had better get ready because Blackjack Mulligan is like a choo-choo train. He's on the track. He's got the brakes off, brother. And the honey wagon, brother, I'm going to tell you something. The honey wagon, I've loaded 3 loads around here already, and ain't enough.
Off the subject of wrestling, how is that little affair of yours going with Earlene? I don't know if I should bring that up or not on TV.
That's kind of personal. I really don't want to get into it, but things are going fine if you want to.
Well, I'm concerned about your happiness in a relationship like that, too, Blackjack. Don't misunderstand me. Plus,
we get along all right. You know, everything's fine. Everything's good. Old Red ain't messing with him no more. I got solved that problem. That's what you want to know.
How is your Aunt Laverne doing?
Well, I don't know. Aunt Laverne, maybe I should ask you everywhere she's been lately. You've been hanging around.
Well, I'll tell you what. I noticed I can't say it.
Boy, I tell you what, they could have done a 10-minute skit every week on Blackjack Mulligan and his honey wagon and all of the relatives and the foreman and everybody who worked for him, from Sarah Jo to Earlene, Old Red, Aunt Laverne, Puss Daniels. Puss Daniels has got to be my favorite. Uncle Ruby Joe. I love that. Uncle Ruby Joe. Spider, the foreman, like I was just talking about. And he even seems to change his own name from week to week. Some weeks he talks about people calling him Bobby Jack. And other weeks they call him Jackie Leroy. So you never really know what Blackjack Mulligan's real name is. But Mulligan collecting some paychecks here. His son-in-law, Mike Rotunda, already out the door. However, Blackjack Mulligan not going to be that far behind. But if you think about Dusty Rhodes on commentary in WCW, this is like a precursor to that. Blackjack Mulligan here in the WWF in the 80s, this was kind of like Dusty Rhodes in the latter years of WCW. Just having some fun, talking a lot of nonsense. All right, we move on to a promo from the adorable Adrian Adonis. Adonis says his main man, Crazy Larry, told him that Roddy Piper has plans for retirement. Crazy Larry, huh? Don't know if I ever met him. Adonis believes the rumors are true because the hot rod can't take the pain that Adonis will inflict. Got some news for you, Adonis, but we'll get to that later. Show goes on. Next matchup, it's the Junkyard Dog scheduled to take on John Balboa, as in Rocky Balboa. Now, if you go online, most websites have it listed as John Valcower or Valcower. It's actually John Balboa here. And John, well, he's a big boy. Announced at 420 pounds. And no, he doesn't look anywhere near that big, but definitely over the 350-pound mark easily. And it looks like he stole the Demolition's furry black boot covers here, too. Remember Axe and Smash were wearing those back in January? We don't see them anymore with the debut of Barry Darsow in the Smash gimmick, but John Balboa, he may have found him. He may have found him in the garbage somewhere. Kind of like Hacksaw in the WCW TV title. As the dog match gets going, speculation continues. We get an insert promo from the U.S. Express. And through the magic of videotaping, Mike Rotunda's still in the company here. Rotunda says that Hulk Hogan will accept Andre's challenge. But Dan Spivey, he doesn't think the Hulk will accept. I always knew Spivey was a heel. And don't you just love how the WWF really asking the big questions to those in the know, like Hillbilly Jim and the U.S. Express. Meanwhile, back to the action, Balboa takes a hell of a back bump off of a JYD headbutt and the big, impressive thump power slam. Pure power driving Balboa down to the mat. Match goes 2 minutes and 2 seconds, and some dancing with JYD and a few of the kids around ringside. Little fun post-match there. And I don't seem to recall anything about Balboa, and I'm not sure if he works here before this taping or again after, but for his size, he fucking bumped his ass off in any era, be it the 80s or even now. Really impressive bumps here by a man of Balboa's size. All right, and if the insert promo in the dog match wasn't enough, we're going to go back to Mean Gene Okerlund. He's going to talk to the U.S. Express as they talk the brand new WWF Tag Team Champion Hart Foundation and dangerous Danny Davis.
All right, Superstars continues here in a moment or two, but in the meantime, I'd like to bring in Danny Spivey, the Golden Boy, along with his partner, Mike Rotundo. They are collectively known as the U.S. Express, and Dan and Mike right now, very volatile situation here in the World Wrestling Federation. We have new tag team champions. The Hart Foundation upending the British Bulldogs in quite a match that involved referee Danny Davis. And I guess the consensus is we were robbed as far as the Bulldogs are concerned.
Well, all I know is I hope Danny Davis is a better wrestler than he is a referee, because if he's not, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And the Harts could get him in even more trouble, because we're coming after the Harts for those tag team titles, which they now hold. This is something we've worked hard for, and we're going to have a chance at. Somewhere, sometime, we're going to have our chance. And when we do, we're going to take full advantage of it.
All right, the way I see it, Dan Spivey, with this, as I said, volatile situation in terms of tag teams and new champions of the Hart Foundation, it could be a big opportunity, a big time for the tag team of Mike Rotundo and yourself.
That's right, Gene. It could be. I know it's going to be. It's not no could-be's about it. Me and Mike have dedicated ourselves to training and working for these world title shots, and now we got a chance at it. We are the #1 contenders now for those belts. And me and Mike have worked hard, trained, we walked that out, we paid our dues, and we dedicated ourselves to being champions. Now all we need is the belts. Hart, you have the belts, but it's only for a short period of time.
All right, that is the opinion of a couple of gentlemen, Mike Rotundo and, of course, Golden Boy Danny Spivey. They are the U.S. Express. Greg the Hammer, Valentine, Brutus Beefcake, some of the other tag teams, the Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, the Demolitions, you know about them all. There are a ton that are going to be looking at the Hart Foundation for the titles. We're going to be right back after this.
You know, if you're watching this on TV and you close your eyes, you can kind of hear Waylon Mercy and IRS cutting a babyface promo. Think about that. A little bit scary. So the U.S. Express proclaim they are coming for the tag team titles, but as we already talked about, Rotunda finished up 2 days before this promo actually aired. Rotunda finishing up on February 12th, this not airing until the 14th. Mike Rotunda already gone from the World Wrestling Federation for a second time, but we'll see him again in about 4 years as Irwin. Superstars goes on, and it's Demolition acts in Smash, now Barry Darsow as Smash, mind you. Luscious Johnny V, their manager in their corner, taking on the team of CV Affi and Mario Mancini. And even though the new Smash Barry Darsow first appeared on Wrestling Challenge, this was technically Darsow's first match under the Smash gimmick, because this was actually taped the day before Challenge. As the Demolition once again try to demolish and destroy their opponent, CV Affi tries for a crossbody block, but Smash catches him and turns it into an inverted atomic drop. Moments later, it's the Demolition decapitation on Mario Mancini. Demolition getting the quick win, 1 minute and 18 seconds. Very impressive, this new team of Demolition. And it's time, guys. As promised, we're off to Piper's Pit, and his guest this week, the WWF Champion, Hulk Hogan. And the Hot Rod, he seems confused as he goes back in time to recap everything that has happened out here on the pit between Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant over the past several weeks. Then out comes the Hulkster. What everybody's been waiting for, Hogan out here ready to give his answer to the Giant. As Hogan makes his way onto the pit, still looks completely dejected as he slinks out onto the set and stares at the floor while Roddy Piper continues to speak. The Hot Rod demands Hogan look him in the eyes. That's 2 weeks in a row somebody tells Hogan to look at me when I'm talking to you. Roddy Piper, though, demands the Hulkster look him in the eyes like a man. No matter what they've been through, one thing Roddy has known is that Hogan is a man. You tell him, Roddy. Piper wants to know what's going on with the Hulk and Andre, as Hogan is still in disbelief, shaking his head, clutching the shirt that Andre tore, grasping at the crucifix and necklace that the Giant ripped from around the champion's neck just last week, Band-Aids on the chest of the Hulkster covering the little nicks from Andre's fingernails. It's evident by his mannerisms and the look on his face, Hulk remains confused. He still doesn't understand what happened last week and repeats his rhetoric about looking up to and patterning himself after Andre the Giant. Hulk says that Heenan got into the head of Hogan's seemingly former best friend, Andre. Hogan says maybe it's jealousy, or maybe it's greed. But something has changed in the Giant, dude. While Andre tore his shirt and his necklace, what he really did was tear out the heart of the Hulkster. Aw, poor brother. But Roddy Piper has heard enough of Hogan's pity and rambling and cuts him off. And it's with that the Hot Rod asks the big question. Does Hulk Hogan accept Andre the Giant's challenge for a title match at WrestleMania? The entire WWF fan base awaits the answer, and wait no longer. The Hulkster responds.
Tell me yes or no. Are you or are you not going to fight him in WrestleMania 3 for the World Heavyweight Championship? Yes or no? Yes!
Fuck yeah! The stage is set! 90,000 plus to witness it! WrestleMania 3! After some of the most compelling build to a main event match in the history of professional wrestling, not just up until 1987, but to the present here in 2022. After tremendous weekly storytelling, the stage is finally set. The challenge was issued. The champion has accepted. It's Hulk versus Andre. Fucking awesome, guys. And even though I knew the story, going back and watching it like this, placing myself back in 1987 and watching the shows from beginning to end, feeling like I'm actually back in 1987, I have an entirely new appreciation and an excitement for this match than I even had the first time around, or any time I've went back to watch any of this. And I really don't care what any smart mark says, any sheet writer says. Give it whatever star rating you want. The anticipation, the story, the build to this match overshadows the quote-unquote work rate. And I can't wait for WrestleMania 3. This is how you book shit, pal. Unbelievable. Whew, what a segment. And after that, I got to catch my breath, guys, so why not head off and let's hear a promo from the new WWF Tag Team Champions, the Hart Foundation.
All right, fans, as everybody knows now, professional wrestling, there are brand new tag team champions. They are the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. They captured those belts when they upended the British Bulldogs. I should point out that the referee happened to be none other than the very controversial Danny Davis, and a lot is going to be said about that match even in years to come. However, the Harts, in my estimation, have another problem to contend with. A number of great tag teams that are camping at their door, like the Killer Bees, the Rougeau Brothers, the Can-Am Connection, Nikolai Volkov, the Iron Sheik, and, of course, Valentine Beefcake, just to host a list of tremendous tag teams. Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret the Hitman Hart. Gentlemen, welcome to the superstars of wrestling.
You know, the devil has 3 children. Pride, falsehood, and envy. And envy. Everyone, all of a sudden, is so envious. They're so greedy about what we've got. They want what we got. But they aren't going to get it.
Bret Hart.
You know, Gene, everybody wants to rule the world. But there's only one Hart Foundation. And for a long time, Jimmy Hart told us, he said, you guys are the best in the world.
What about those other teams?
The other teams don't matter because they just don't cut it. They just don't have it.
All right, that's your opinion. Certainly promoters are not talking in that vein.
Oh, really? Oh, really? Who do you think could beat who's going to upend the Hart Foundation? Surely not the Bulldogs. They've been wiped out and trampled out. The Bees aren't good enough, and neither are the Rougeaus. And the Islanders, I think they should stick to coconuts or something like that.
If I can correct your grammar.
Why don't you just shut up? The Hart Foundation, we don't have to yell and scream anymore. We don't have to talk. We've done it all. We don't have to say anything. We've proved it. We don't have to do anything. We've got the belts.
You told me to shut up. I'm not saying anything.
Good. Now you're listening.
Wised up. Now, when we're talking about teams, Sheik and Volkov, now there's a team, but they might have to work their way up. You know what I mean?
What about this Can-Am Connection?
Can-Am Connection. Ooh. If looks could kill, we might be in trouble. If looks don't kill, we're not in any trouble at all.
What about the Rougeau Brothers?
What about them?
What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? At the Hart Foundation, we have one motto. Either you can go the easy way, or you can go the hard way.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the Hart Foundation.
All right, Bret Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the new tag team champions, may have had a little help from the likes of Danny Davis, a little help from Jimmy Hart and that megaphone as well. Nevertheless, you got to respect them for as long as they hold those tag team belts. And while we're on the topic of Jimmy Hart and Danny Davis, we saw earlier on this episode President Jack Tunney fire Danny Davis as an official. He was suspended for life, or at least until after WrestleMania 5. Davis got hot. He tried to attack Jack Tunney. He tried to go after Tito Santana, but instead it was Jimmy Hart who came out and talked Danny Davis into calming down and leaving with Hart. And now we head backstage as we get a promo from Jimmy Hart with the former referee Danny Davis standing by his side. And right away, Jimmy Hart wastes no time. He introduces his newest protege, no longer a referee, but now a wrestler. Danny Davis is now a full-time wrestler, guys, and under the tutelage of Jimmy Hart. We also learn that Davis is also now the newest member of the Hart Foundation. Jimmy says that Danny Davis is open to both singles matches and six-man tags alongside the Hitman and the Anvil. And this was honestly just a pretty quick announcement. They got right to the point, but I also felt this was kind of a bad placement on the show to put it on right after the Hogan on the Pit segment, because this in itself is a big deal, months in the making, but right after Hogan, it doesn't hit as hard as it should. And personally, I probably would have waited another week or maybe even two to air this segment, give that Danny Davis firing a little time to soak in with the fans before you punch him in the gut. So Danny Davis, no longer a referee for the WWF, but rather a wrestler under the management of Jimmy Hart. How about that, guys? We're going to see how that turns out. I know a lot of guys who want to get their hands on wrestler Danny Davis. And back to the ring, it's the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat, taking on Hollywood Tom Laxton. The entire match on commentary, Vince McMahon questioning Jesse Ventura why he's shitting on poor Tom Laxton. Jesse is not happy that Laxton is announced as Hollywood. So once again, the Body upset that Hollywood references are being made to yet another wrestler here on the show. It's funny, the Body even rooting for Ricky Steamboat here simply because the job guy's nickname is Hollywood. During the match, we get an insert promo from George the Animal Steel. The promo goes something like this.
Steamboat. Nice.
The Animal then points to himself as he says, corner, then holds up the number 3 with his fingers and says, 3. So Steamboat is nice. I get that part of the promo. But then he points to himself and says, corner. We'll have to wait and see what that means. Also, 3. So either George is the newest member of the Horsemen, he can't quite count right, or maybe there's more to this. Could it have something to do with the corner of the Dragon at WrestleMania 3? We'll have to wait and see. Back to the action as Laxton misses a running crossbody and takes a bump out to the floor. But Ricky Steamboat begins to climb to the top rope, and oh my God, Steamboat! Flying crossbody block off the top rope to the outside on the concrete. Unbelievable. Steamer then rolls Laxton back inside and nails a jumping karate chop. Drop, for lack of a better term, and the Dragon picks up the win in just 2 minutes. As we see a more aggressive Ricky the Dragon Steamboat after coming back from that larynx injury. Steamer now doing dives off the top rope out to the floor, mimicking the Macho Man there. But Steamboat far more aggressive as he returns for revenge on the Macho Man. We move on, and it's Honky Tonk Man time. We get another vignette from Honky Tonk with Jimmy Hart standing near one of Elvis Presley's planes, the Lisa Marie. Honky says the Elvis plane, well, it don't fly no more. And it's too small for the Honky Tonk Man anyway, just a mere 727. Once the Honky Tonk Man gets going here in the World Wrestling Federation, he's going to have the much larger 747. And he will be taking care of business. We move on with this episode of Superstars. Closing out the show, it's the Can-Am connection of Rick Martel, Tom Zenk taking on Tiger Chung Lee and the Gladiator, Rick Hunter under a hood. Solid squash action going on, but the big story here is Vince McMahon announcing that Steamboat versus Savage for the Intercontinental title will take place at WrestleMania 3. And George the Animal Steel will be in the corner of the Dragon. Oh, now it all makes sense. Promo from earlier, George Steele, corner 3. That's George Steele in the corner of the Dragon at WrestleMania 3. We get an insert promo during this match from Don Morocco and Cowboy Bob Orton, who continue to mock the Pretty Boy Can-Ams and say they will beat them at WrestleMania 3. So apparently, another match signed. Back in the ring, the Can-Ams work over Chung Lee until the Gladiator pulls down the top rope, sending Rick Martel over the top rope and a nasty spill out to the floor. The heels then work over Rick Martel briefly before Martel gets his knees up on a Gladiator charge in the corner, And it's hot tag time to Tom Zink, who is a house o' fire here. And it's Bonzo Gonzo on the heels before Tom Zink nails a power slam on the Gladiator. Rick Martel in with a slingshot splash. Can-Am connection, pick up another win. 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Fun finisher. Love that power slam slingshot splash combo by the Can-Ams to pick up the win once again. And you know, I've noticed the Can-Ams, they seem to close a lot of the TV shows as of late. And why not? Solid matches to keep the viewers tuned in as the camera pans to some young girls with a "We Love Your Buns" sign. I'm assuming in the direction of the Can-Am connection. And as we conclude this episode of Superstars, this episode was stacked yet again this week. Danny Davis fired as a referee and immediately employed by Jimmy Hart and the Hart Foundation. And we learned the big title matches at WrestleMania 3. It's going to be Savage defending his IC title against Ricky Steamboat, George Steele in his corner. And of course, the big one, WWF Champion Hulk Hogan has accepted the challenge of Andre the Giant, the main event of WrestleMania 3. And after the tag team title change and the Hulk-Andre confrontation last week on Superstars, this week we got the big answer from the Hulkster, and it just keeps going on. Next week, here on Superstars, we find out if the Roddy Piper retirement rumors are true. Does it ever stop? Jesus. Talk about firing on all cylinders. Epic booking here. No wonder they drew whatever it is they truly drew at WrestleMania 3. Just unbelievable storytelling every segment of every episode of TV right now. And it's on to Wrestling Challenge February 15th, taped back on January 27th, Fort Myers, Florida, at the Lee Civic Center. Your host, as always, Gorilla Monsoon, and the all smiles Bobby the Brain Heenan. You wonder why the weasel's smiling? Well, we already found out why on Superstars. We'll find out again here on Challenge. That Hulk Hogan has accepted Andre the Giant's challenge for a championship match at WrestleMania 3. Bobby the Brain Heenan couldn't be happier as we head off to the ring. 6-man tag team action. It's the odd pairing of Hillbilly Jim alongside those French-Canadian Rougeau brothers taking on the team of the Dream Team. That's Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake, along with their manager Luscious Johnny V acting as their partner in this match, and Dino Bravo on the outside acting as, I guess, the corner man, the manager, so to speak, for this matchup. So it's the Rougeaus and Hillbilly Jim taking on the Dream Team and Johnny V. Bravo still a brunette here. Meanwhile, you don't see the bland Rougeau brothers enter to "Don't Go Messin' with the Country Boy" very often. And the Rougeaus for this one, not even smiling as they enter the ring, most likely because they're not happy with this pairing. Hillbilly Jim does manage to get the Rougeaus to clap along with them before the match, but no do-si-do action. At least not until they become heels. As the match gets going, we see a little bit from everyone in the matchup, except for Johnny V, who wisely stays on the apron. Jacques Rougeau, however, misses a reverse cross body block, lands hard in the center of the ring, and the Dream Team take over on the offense before tagging in Luscious Johnny V. And finally, a confident and cocky Valiant tags in. Johnny V goes to pick Jacques up, but Jacques counters into an inside cradle for the quick win. Just 2 minutes and 42 seconds, the Rougeaus. And Hillbilly Jim snag a win, pinning the manager Johnny V in this one. Dino Bravo, however, immediately jumps into the ring to make it a 4-on-3, and the heels clear the ring of the baby faces. But the good guys regroup on the outside and turn the tables, re-entering the ring and running the heels off. And I suppose this match really was just done to create some more of a story for the Rougeaus Dream Team match at WrestleMania 3. It also continues that French-Canadian storyline between the Rougeaus and Dino Bravo at the same time. So they're trying to give every match on WrestleMania at least a little bit of something. And we go back to Superstars. We see a replay of President Jack Tunney firing Danny Davis as an official. It's Craig DeGeorge standing by with Danny Davis and Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart now the manager of former referee Danny Davis. Jimmy says that he has open contracts for Danny Davis to face anyone in singles competition. Furthermore, Jimmy also says that the Hart Foundation have open contracts. They will defend their tag team titles against anyone who puts their name on the dotted line. Also, Jimmy Hart opened for 6-man tag team matches. Yes, open contracts for the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis to team up together. Jimmy Hart says he has to thank that big fat slob, President Jack Tunney, for firing Danny Davis, who just happens to be the greatest singles wrestler in the entire world. Wow, who knew? And as for Danny Davis and the Hart Foundation throwing around open contracts, this might be the most fighting heel stable I've ever heard of. As the show goes on, we don't get this every day, guys, so I figured I'd throw it in here. Mean Gene Okerlund standing by, conducting an interview with Paul Roma.
All right, fans, stay tuned. We're going to get you back up into the ring in just a moment or two for more exciting World Wrestling Federation action. Young man that I've had to cover very closely over the past couple of years hails from Kensington, New York. Paul Roma, come on in. Paul, initially, when I was covering wrestling in Australia about a year and a half ago, I had an opportunity to see you, I'd say, the better part of a dozen times. And I must say, you made your mark in Australia at that time, and certainly you're making your mark here in the good old US of A, in the World Wrestling Federation. And on that, I congratulate you. It's been a long, hard haul, though, has it not?
Yes, Gene. First, I want to say thank you for that nice introduction. It's been really, really hard, and I think I'm being very successful in my up-and-coming climb in the World Wrestling Federation, since I am being challenged or am challenging the best that there are in professional wrestling.
Well, right now you've got a little thing going with a gentleman out of Brooklyn, New York, and you two gentlemen are from the same part of the country. I'm talking about Steve Lombardi. Lombardi has been around for a few years, but yet he is a very young man. He started at a very young age. Tough competitor.
Very tough, you know, but I'll tell you what about Steve Lombardi. He took advantage of me when I was down, when I was hurt in the ring, and now I'm not hurt. Now I'm ready, and I'm ready for him. And we have signed a contract, and we're going to settle the score.
All right, Paul Roma, you happen to be able to have put together a tremendous weight training program along with work on a daily basis in the ring, and apparently all of that hard work and your commitment has finally paid off. How do you size it up?
Well, that's just about size it up. I've been training every day, Gene, every day. And I'll tell you what, I'm ready for him. I'm going to break him up.
All right, this is Paul Roma. Of course, he has got a thing going right now with one Steve Lombardi, and they're going to be tangling in the World Wrestling Federation. It's one you won't want to miss. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back. Thank you, Paul.
All right, so there, Roma talking his quote-unquote feud with Steve Lombardi on the undercard. Mean Gene, excellent job there leading Roma through the promo. Paul, as you might have heard, not the best on the microphone. And I'll say this, Roma always had the look, the athleticism, the ability in the ring, but he lacked the mic skills and, in my opinion, also lacked the personality. It didn't help him that even as a babyface, it was like pulling teeth to get him to smile. A natural heel was Paul Roma, so he worked much better in the Power and Glory tag team, that's for sure. We move on and we see once again the Honky Tonk Man vignette from Phillips Recording Studios. So it's back to the ring, more action with IC champion Macho Man Randy Savage, Miss Elizabeth in his corner, taking on Jerry Allen. And hey, a flashback to 1985 Memphis. It was Allen, then going as Jerry Oski, pinning the Macho Man Randy Savage for the Southern Heavyweight title in Louisville. Back in May of 1985, that match went 30 minutes, guys. And just a week or so later, the Macho Man beats Oski back for the Southern title, just so he could drop it to Jerry Lawler on his way out of Memphis for the WWF. That's right, Oski beats Randy Savage for the Southern title right before Savage makes it big in the World Wrestling Federation. But Savage, or I should say Lawler, wise enough to book the belt back onto Savage so that Lawler could beat the Macho Man before he made it national in the WWF. Very smart booking by Lawler there. But these two, Savage and Jerry Allen, they have a history, was my point. And unfortunately, that little push down in Memphis, that wound up being Oski's only big push, or at least his biggest push, and he actually held his own, even back in 1985. If you go back and listen to his promos also back in Memphis, Jerry Allen adequate on promos as well. Nothing fancy, but got the job done. And based on his muscle build, I was always curious why he was never pushed beyond enhancement talent here in the WWF. And for this time period here, Jerry Allen, absolutely my favorite babyface job guy. But back to the ring, back to the action as Savage shoves Allen pre-match, then hides behind Miss Elizabeth before he turns his back to gloat at what he just did. But Allen shoving Savage from behind, sending him face first into the corner. And the crowd pops huge. As the bell sounds and the match is official, Jerry Allen tries for a Thez press, but Savage catches him in air, running him backwards into a hot shot across the top rope. Just moments later, Macho Man with a body slam and the flying elbow gets the win in a mere 32 seconds. And here's the kicker, guys. Randy Savage doesn't even bother to remove his glasses or robe for this matchup. Awesome looking stuff as the crowd pops for the Macho Man win. And what went 30 minutes in Allen's favor in Memphis went 30 seconds here in Macho's favor in the WWF. And I guess that's all that really matters at the end of the day. The Macho Man with a very quick and impressive win over Jerry Allen. And it looked even cooler because he kept his robe and his, even more importantly, his goggles, his glasses on for the flying elbow spot. Really cool stuff there by the Macho Man. And speaking of Randy, we go off to a pre-tape promo in which Randy Savage asks Ricky Steamboat if he identified with those handicapped children he visited. Jeez. Come on, guys. Randy Savage says the Dragon's future is a handicapped situation, if he steps in the ring with the Macho Man again. And since it is Valentine's weekend, guys, we're off to Mean Gene Okerlund standing by with George the Animal Steele, who has some candy for Valentine's Day.
All right, fans, stay tuned. We're going to get you back up into the ring in just a moment or two. On this Valentine's weekend, I guess it would be appropriate if I were to talk to the Harts, the new tag team champions of the world. And I will, a little bit later on in the program. But right now, I want to bring out a man from Detroit, Michigan. There's a lot of talk in the World Wrestling Federation right now about George the Animal Steele. And, of course, you know his involvement with a number of others in this great organization. George Steele, come on out from Detroit, Michigan. George, come on in. What is this? Oh, George, what do you have for me today?
Valentine candy.
Valentine candy. Thank you.
One.
All right. This one?
No. Elizabeth, like grape.
Oh, I have another one. I have the peppermint. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you, George. That's very kind. That's very nice of you. You are a kind man, George.
Nice.
Elizabeth's nice.
Nice.
Real nice. She likes grape. Randy Savage. The
Grape
Macho...
candy.
Grape candy. What about the Macho Man, Randy Savage?
Lemon.
Oh. That's not real nice to say.
Bad.
They usually refer to used cars when they say lemon. Right. Oh. Can you say Happy Valentine's Day, George?
Happy.
Yes.
Happy.
Oh.
All right, and we learned a couple of things there. Randy Savage is a lemon, and Miss Elizabeth loves grapes. Now, is George saying that Randy Savage is the size of grapes?
More like grapefruits, brother. Aha!
My testicles are the size of grapefruits.
Whoa! And you know what? We'll just leave that one alone. As we go back to the ring, it's the King Harley Race, Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner as always, taking on Moondog Spot. And I do believe this is the first time we've seen Spotty here in 1987, at least on syndicated TV, but he's not long for the WWF at this point. Spotty, though, much trimmer and in pretty good shape here. Complete with dinosaur-sized bone in hand, Bobby Heenan at ringside, so we get Johnny V on commentary alongside Gorilla Monsoon for this one. We also see an insert promo from Bobby Heenan teaching the Junkyard Dog how to bow before the King. Obviously, Heenan and Race predicting the dog going to go down at WrestleMania 3. And this matchup, kind of an odd one. It's almost heel versus heel. A Spot typically works as a heel. Harley Race always the heel. Looking forward to this one. As the bell sounds, and Spotty misses a high knee in the corner. Race cradle suplex. 1, 2, 3. Wow. Well, that wasn't much of anything. Harley Race picking up the win in 35 seconds. It was certainly a disappointment. I was actually looking forward to that one. Spot not even putting up a fight anymore in the squash matches, which kind of sucks because he's honestly in the best shape of his career. Nevertheless, Harley Race puts one dog down before he heads on to take on the big dog, the Junkyard Dog, at WrestleMania. And once again this week, the Snake Pit continues to be preempted, and for very good reason. We get a replay from Superstars of Piper's Pit, featuring WWF Champion Hulk Hogan's answer to Andre's challenge. And just in case you forgot what that answer was, let's play it again.
Tell me yes or no. Are you or are you not going to fight him at WrestleMania 3 for the World Heavyweight Championship? Yes or no? Yeah!
An emphatic yes from Hulk Hogan, and the match will go down. Looking forward to it at WrestleMania 3, the main event. WWF title on the line, but it's back to the ring here on Wrestling Challenge. Billy Jack Haynes taking on Kim Duck. You might know him better here in the WWF as Tiger Chung Lee. We get an insert promo right away from the mighty Hercules, who challenges Haynes to a match at WrestleMania 3. And speaking of WrestleMania, Silverdome ticket information scrolling across the bottom of the screen here during this Haynes match, making sure everyone has the opportunity to purchase their seats at WrestleMania. As the action gets going, Billy Jack Haynes with a running crossbody and a drop kick sends Chung Lee outside to the floor, but back inside, Tiger takes over with generic heel offense. Chung Lee manages to land one Wahoo-style knife-edge chop to the chest of Billy Jack Haynes, but when he goes for a second one, Billy Jack ducks and follows that up, blocking a series of judo chops from Chung Lee before Billy Jack Haynes locks in the full Nelson, picking up the submission victory in 2 minutes, 52 seconds. Billy Jack Haynes looks ready for Hercules. And let's stay with the action in the ring. This time, tag team action. It's the Killer Bees taking on the team of the Red Demon, that's Jose Luis Rivera, and the Gladiator, which is Rick Hunter. During the Bees match, we get an insert promo from Slick, who announces that the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov will be wrestling the Killer Bees at WrestleMania. Oh my God, we need a notepad to keep up with all the random matches being announced for the big pay-per-view. No real WrestleMania report yet, but we've got matches being announced left and right here. As the action goes, the Killer Bees dominate the match, working the Demon's arm. Brian Blair then slams the opponents on top of one another, so the Bees having a little fun before a Jim Brunzell dropkick on the Gladiator, but the Red Demon in to break it up. Come on now. This leads to a brief four-way brawl before Brian Blair nails the old butt, the old bee sting, if you will. The flying hip attack on the Gladiator gets the win in 3 minutes and 13 seconds. And I'll say this, guys. Jose Luis Rivera, who is the Red Demon here at this point, was always a solid hand to have on the roster, but he absolutely owned the mask gimmicks. The body mannerisms, the constant movement, and physical communication with his arms, with the crowd. He really was good for a guy who was just starting to use a mask gimmick. And never mind the fact that he even typically used to work the babyface position on the underneath. Just a really good job here by the former Mac Rivera, who has come into his own as a heel and under the hood. And that'll lead to something a little better in the Conquistadors down the line. And guys, what's a Valentine's weekend without a pair of Harts? As in, the new WWF Tag Team Champions, the Hart Foundation.
All right, as everybody is aware of, last weekend, brand new Tag Team Champions here in the World Wrestling Federation. And I know a long time ago, Jimmy Hart promised that the Hart Foundation, Bret the Hitman Hart, and Jim the Anvil Neidhart ultimately would be the Tag Team Champions here in the World Wrestling Federation. However, I want to point out their victory over the British Bulldogs, a shallow one in some way, because Danny Davis, the referee, made that particular title change a very controversial one here in the World Wrestling Federation. Perhaps these gentlemen can address the fact that they are new tag team.
Who says that your opinion is good as gold? What is this about Danny Davis and the decision being controversial?
Well, I'm entitled to my opinion.
Well, sure. Anytime the British Bulldogs, they're going to lose the World Championship, what are they going to say? Oh, oops, sorry, I lost. Sure, they're going to say that we cheated. That's the way they operate.
Sour grapes is what I think.
Sour grapes.
Look at these things, Gene.
They're
all
beautiful.
shined up. They're all shined up. You ever see one of those real scary monster movies?
Yes, right.
And there's like two guys that are trying to take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the world of wrestling, the world of tag team wrestling, it's happened. The Hart Foundation's took over the world. We rule the planet, and you know what else? We've got the ultimate secret weapon.
What's that? You saw Godzilla eats Newark, right?
Yeah, we've seen. We're going to eat all Newark, and we're going to eat everywhere. We're going to wipe out every city there is, because we've been eating teeth for too long.
And you know what, Hitman? All the predictions for 1987, like the Killer Bees have predicted 87, the year of the bee. Wrong.
It ain't the year of the dog either.
Not the year of the dog. Not the year of the
frog. It's not the year of the Can-Am Connection.
It's the U.S. Express?
Not them either. This is the year of the Hart Foundation. And we wouldn't have got here. We wouldn't have got here without the brilliance and the genius of Jimmy Hart. God bless him. That man is truly, he's busy and it's none of your business. He's taking care of things.
Right, he's back at the foundation thinking. And our new motto, which we put over our secretary's desk, is...
Secretary's desk.
Correct. You can either go the easy way, or you can go the hard way. And the Bulldogs have chose the easy way out.
Well, now, wait a minute. You better explain that. What do you mean by that, Jim Neidhart?
I don't have to explain anything.
It looked pretty easy to me.
We're world champions.
It looked real easy. We don't
Well, like them or not, they are indeed officially the World Tag Team Champions, the Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Thank you.
Mean Gene calls it a controversial title change, but Bret says it's sour grapes. Are we really talking about grapes again? The Hart Foundation had the ultimate secret weapon, a heart attack. Gotta love it. Jim Neidhart, just an excellent promo with this character. Bret, a good second to feed off of. But the Anvil was the promo of this team here in 1987. The Anvil really shined here in the promos, and Bret Hart, well, he did his talking in the ring. An excellent team when put together are the Hart Foundation, and they deserve to be the tag team champions. And as we close out this edition of Wrestling Challenge, Gorilla Monsoon promises the entire WrestleMania 3 card announced here next week on Wrestling Challenge. Wow, that was fast. We go from no matches to the entire card being announced next week. Whew, and what a crazy first 2 weeks of February here in 1987 for the WWF. So much has happened in just these past 2 weeks of TV, and I know we originally planned to cover the entire month of February here this week on The Grenade, but I really don't want to do this show, I really don't want to do this timeline a disservice by trying to cram too much into this one episode of The Grenade. I absolutely do not want to rush through any of this, as it's really compelling TV, really compelling storylines as we head into WrestleMania 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to chop this February TV up into 2 episodes of The Grenade. This week, we're going to leave you with the first 2 weeks of February. We just ended Wrestling Challenge. Next week, we'll pick right back up with WWF Prime Time Wrestling for February 16th, and we'll take it all the way through March 1st edition of Wrestling Challenge next week. So 2 weeks of February 87 this week, 2 more weeks coming next week. Now, this week, we heard Andre the Giant issue the challenge, and the Hulkster accepts. We learned that Ricky Steamboat will challenge Randy Savage for the IC title at WrestleMania with George Steele in his corner. Danny Davis, no longer a referee, but he's been employed under the services of Jimmy Hart and the Hart Foundation. We witnessed the WWF debuts of Demolition Smash as in Barry Darsow. Outback Jack has arrived. And we welcomed a new announcer, Craig DeGeorge, all in the last couple weeks of WWF TV. But never fear, there's more right around the corner next week as we talk the entire WrestleMania 3 lineup. The Honky Tonk Man has a special meeting with Jake the Snake Roberts. The Hot Rod Roddy Piper talks retirement. We'll be hearing from newcomer Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Ho! Plus, Brutus Beefcake receives a haircut. We'll see the living legend Bruno Sammartino step in the ring to take on the Iron Sheik. And the contract signing for Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, the championship match at WrestleMania. All of that, Soundbites Galore, and so much more next week here. Things continue to get hotter and hotter as we head into WrestleMania 3. I promise you won't want to miss it. We'll see you guys back here then.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following. Hall's Mentholyptus cough tablets. Vapor action penetrates to help your stuffy nose feel clearer. Hall's soothes your throat, helps your cough.
All right, guys, and once again, I do want to apologize to anyone who was expecting to listen to the entire breakdown for February 1987 TV here for the World Wrestling Federation this week. But the show, it was just too big to put into one episode. I absolutely don't want to rush this project. I don't want to rush the hype to WrestleMania. I don't want to do myself or you guys, the listeners, any disservice. So I thought it best to cut the show in half. Half this week and half next week. We will be back next week with the other half of February 1987. So much more to talk about as we head into WrestleMania. And once again, remember to follow us on our social media accounts at Twitter, at Wrestling Grenade. That's at RASSLIN Grenade. Also follow and like us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/Wrestling Grenade. I'm always adding all kinds of cool old videos and pictures from throughout wrestling history. And speaking of videos, make sure to go on over to our YouTube channel as well. Subscribe to youtube.com/Wrestling Grenade. Lots of fun stuff to watch as well up there. But of course, our Patreon account over at patreon.com/WrestleCopia. That's patreon.com/WrestleCopia. A dozen tiers to choose from, a dozen tiers of goodies over there. The $5 all access tier is where I ask you to go, though. If you're going to start anywhere, start right there. Give it a try. 6 gifts for $5 a month. No subscription. Cancel anytime. Some of those gifts include the Patreon exclusive watch-along series of WWF and WCW pay-per-views, Saturday Night's main events, Clash of the Champions, Coliseum videos, and so much more, as well as digital downloads, early access to many of the podcasts, and my insanely detailed show notes for both the Grenade and the Monday Warfare podcast. I want to thank you guys once more for putting the Wrestling Memory Grenade in the charts, guys, here in the U.S., over in the UK, Australia, and beyond. I want to thank all of you so very much for your continued support of the Wrestling Memory Grenade, our sister show, Monday Warfare. TR Shocks the World should be returning very shortly as well. On behalf of the entire WrestleCopia Podcast Network, I thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. And until next time, this is Ray Russell saying, from pillar to post and coast to coast, you pull the pin and we'll pick up the pieces right here on the Wrestling Memory Grenade. Remember, guys, we're back next week with more February 87 in the WWF. It's going to be a blast. So we'll see you next week. Don't miss it. Be there.
Tell me yes or no. Are you or are you not gonna fight him in WrestleMania 3 for the World Heavyweight Championship? Yes or no? Yeah!